Hi guys, tonight we drift quietly into the life of a mountain man in the deep winter snow. The sun is sinking behind the big rocks. The air is turning cold. It feels like ice against your cheeks. The wind is coming off the peaks like a cold river, finding every gap in your clothes. You can hear the dry snow crunching under your heavy boots. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you want to let me know where you are listening from, and what time it is, where you are. I always love seeing those little snapshots of the world. Now dim the lights and let the story begin. You are walking through the high mountains. It is the year 1830. The sun is a pale yellow ball, hanging low in the sky. It does not feel warm anymore. You can see your breath in the air. It looks like small puffs of white smoke. Every time you breathe out, the white cloud hangs there for a second before the wind whisks it away. You are far away from any town. You are far away from any house or warm bed. There are no roads here. There are no lights from a city. There is only the white snow, the dark green trees, and the big grey mountains. The snow is very deep. It comes up to your knees in some places. Every step you take is hard work. You have to lift your leg high and push through the heavy white powder. You can hear the sound of it. It makes a soft, dry crunch sound. Crunch, crunch, crunch. It is the only sound in the world right now. The wind has died down for a moment, and everything is very, very still. You stop for a second to rest. You lean on your long wooden rifle. The metal of the barrel is so cold that it would stick to your skin if you touched it with a bare hand. You are wearing thick gloves made of deerskin, so you are safe. You look around you. The shadows are getting long. They are a deep, dark blue color. They stretch out across the white snow like long fingers. The tall pine trees look almost black against the sky. The sky is turning from a light blue to a soft purple. It is a very pretty sight, but you know it means the night is coming. In the mountains, the night is a dangerous thing if you do not have a plan. The temperature will drop very fast. It will become much colder than a freezer in a shop. If you stay out in the open without a fire or a shelter, the cold will bite deep into your bones. You feel the weight of your pack on your back. It is heavy. It is made of thick leather. Inside, you have everything you need to stay alive. You have your possibles bag. This is a small leather pouch that holds your most important things. Inside it, you have your flint and steel for making fire. You have a small lead ball for your rifle. You have a sharp knife for skinning animals. You also have a small tin of grease to keep your metal tools from rusting in the damp snow. Everything you own is on your back. You are a mountain man, a trapper. You spend your days looking for beaver in the icy streams and your nights trying to stay warm under the stars. Most men like you are young and strong. You have to be strong to live out here. You came to these mountains because you wanted to see the wild places. You wanted to see the world before it was filled with buildings and fences. Back then, in the 1820s and 1830s, thousands of men went west to find their fortune in furs. But right now, you are not thinking about money or beaver skins. You are thinking about how cold your toes feel inside your leather boots. You are thinking about how much your shoulders ache from the heavy pack. You are thinking about finding a place to sleep. You look down at your clothes. You are wearing buckskins. These are clothes made from the skin of a deer. They are soft and tough. You have a long coat that reaches down to your thighs. It has fringe along the arms and the chest. The fringe is not just for looking good. When it rains or snows, the water runs down the fringe and drips off, keeping the rest of the coat a little bit drier. Your trousers are also made of deerskin. Over your boots, you have wrapped pieces of thick wool and more leather to keep the snow out. You are covered in layers of fur and skin, like the animals that live here. You take another step. The snow is getting deeper as you move into a small valley. This valley is tucked between two high ridges of rock. It is a good place to be. The high walls of rock will help block the wind. You see a group of thick pine trees ahead. Their branches are heavy with white snow. They look like big white tents. Underneath those branches, the ground might be a little bit drier. You move towards them slowly. Your legs feel like lead. Your heart is beating steadily in your chest. You can feel the warmth of your own body trapped inside your thick coat, but your face is cold. The tip of your nose feels numb. You stop and look at a specific tree. It is an old cedar tree. It has thick red bark that smells sweet and spicy. Near the base of the tree, there is a flat spot. The snow is not as deep there because the branches above have caught most of it. This looks like a good spot to build your night shift home. You will not have a bed with soft sheets. You will not have a roof made of wood or tin. You will have a lean-to. A lean-to is a very simple shelter. It is just a slanted roof that leans against something. It is open on the sides and the front. It does not look like much, but it can save your life. You drop your pack onto the snow. It makes a dull thud. You feel much lighter now, but the cold seems to find you faster when you are not moving. You need to work quickly. You look at your hands. Your fingers are a bit stiff. You rub them together to get the blood moving. You can see the first star appearing in the sky. It is bright and clear. The air is so thin and clean up here that the stars look like diamonds. They do not twinkle as much as they do in the city. They just glow with a steady, cold light. You reach for your belt and pull out your knife. This is a special knife. It is called a Green River knife. It was made in a factory far away in the east, but it is the most important tool you have. The blade is 6 inches long and very sharp. The handle is made of dark wood, worn smooth by your hand. You have used this knife to cut wood, to cook meat, and to make your clothes. It is like a part of your own arm. You hold it firmly and look at the trees around you. You need to gather wood. You need big logs for a fire and green branches for your roof. You walk over to a smaller pine tree. You cut a few of the lower branches. They are flexible and strong. As you cut them, the smell of pine fills the air. It is a very clean, sharp smell. It reminds you of the deep forest. You pile the branches in the flat spot under the cedar tree. This will be your bed. You do not want to sleep directly on the snow. The snow would melt from your body heat and make you wet. Being wet in the cold is very dangerous. You want to stay dry and elevated. The silence of the mountains settles around you. You stop for a minute and just listen. Moment of silence. There is no wind now. There are no birds singing. The birds have all gone to sleep or flown to warmer places. You can hear your own heart beating. Thump. 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 You can hear the tiny sound of a piece of snow falling from a branch and hitting the ground. Plip. It is a very lonely sound, but it is also very peaceful. You are the only human being for miles. You are a small point of life in a vast, frozen world. You start to gather more branches. You work with a steady rhythm. You do not want to sweat. If you sweat, your clothes will get damp. And when you stop moving, that dampness will turn to ice. You move slowly and carefully. You pick up a long, fallen branch. It is dry and grey. This will be the main pole for your shelter. You lean it against the trunk of the big cedar tree. Then you find another pole and lean it next to the first one. You are making a frame. It looks like half of a tent. The light is almost gone now. The world is a deep shade of indigo. The snow looks blue. The trees look like ghosts. You can see the moon rising over the jagged peaks of the mountains. It is a big, white moon, and it reflects off the snow, making everything glow. You do not need a torch or a lamp. The moon and the snow provide enough light for you to see what you are doing. You think about the people back in the cities. They are sitting by warm fireplaces. They are eating hot soup at wooden tables. They are sleeping in beds with wool blankets. You are here, in the middle of a frozen wilderness, building a house out of sticks and bark. It is a hard life, but it is your life. You feel a sense of pride. You know how to survive. You know how to read the clouds and the wind. You know how to find your way when there are no paths. You pick up your Green River knife again. You need to trim the small twigs off your poles. The wood is frozen, so it is hard. You have to push down with your thumb on the back of the blade. The knife bites into the wood. You can feel the vibration of the cut in your hand. You work until you have 5 or 6 good straight poles. You lean them all against the tree, side by side. Now you have a slanted wall. It is not much, but it is the start of your home for the night. The cold is getting sharper. It feels like tiny needles pricking your skin. You pull your collar up higher around your neck. The fur of your coat feels soft against your chin. You take a deep breath of the cold air. It feels very crisp in your lungs. It is so cold that it almost hurts to breathe deeply, but it also feels very fresh. It is the cleanest air in the world. You look at the spot you have chosen. The cedar tree is old and strong. Its roots go deep into the rocky ground. It has stood here for hundreds of years. It has seen many winters like this one. It will protect you. You feel a connection to the tree and the land. You are not a stranger here. You have learned the secrets of the mountains. You know that if you treat the land with respect, It will give you what you need. You have wood for fire. You have branches for a bed. You have a buffalo robe in your pack that will keep you warm. You are ready to finish the roof. You reach for the big piles of pine boughs you cut earlier. You will layer them on top of the poles like shingles on a house. You start at the bottom and work your way up. This way, if it snows tonight, the snow will slide off the needles and stay outside. You are building a shield against the winter. Every branch you add makes the space underneath feel a little bit more like a room. It is small, just big enough for you to lie down, but it is yours. You step back and look at your work. The lean-to is simple and honest. It does not have windows or doors. It is open to the forest. But it is a place of safety. You feel a small spark of hope in your chest. You are tired and cold, but you have made a start. The night shift is just beginning, and you are ready for it. You will build a fire, you will eat, and you will sleep while the world freezes around you. You are the watchman of your own life in this high, white world. You stand in the blue light of the evening and look around your camp. Finding the right spot is the most important choice you will make today. If you pick a bad spot, the wind will find you. If you pick a bad spot, the snow might melt under you and turn into a cold puddle. You move slowly, feeling the ground with your feet through your leather moccasins. Moccasins are soft shoes made of deerskin. They're very comfortable, but they do not have thick soles like the boots people wear in the city. You can feel every bump and every stick on the ground. This helps you know if the earth is flat enough for a bed. The spot under the big cedar tree is good, but you need to check the area around it. You walk a few steps to the left and then to the right. You are looking for a place where the trees grow close together. In the mountains, these thick groups of trees are called dog hair thickets because the trees grow as close together as the hairs on a dog's back. These thick trees act like a wall. They break the power of the wind. When the wind hits these trees, it loses its strength. It cannot blow straight through to your bed. You find a perfect circle of these thick trees. It is like a small room made by nature. You look up at the branches above. You are looking for widowmakers. This is a name mountain men give to big, dead branches that hang high up in the trees. If a heavy wind comes, or if too much snow piles up, these dead branches can fall. If one falls on you while you are sleeping, it would be very bad. You look carefully, squinting your eyes against the dim light. The branches of the cedar look strong and healthy. There is no dead wood waiting to fall. You feel a little bit safer now. You go back to your pack and reach inside for a special tool. It is a small whetstone. A whetstone is a flat, rough stone used to make your knife sharp again. Even though your knife is good, cutting through frozen pine branches makes the edge dull. You sit on a fallen log for a moment. You spit on the stone to make it wet, then you rub the blade of your knife against it. Shh, 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 shh. The sound is very quiet in the big forest. You do this for a long time. You want the knife to be as sharp as a razor. A sharp knife is a safe tool because it does not slip. While you sharpen your knife, you think about the other men who might be out here. Most trappers work for big companies, but you are a free trapper. This means you work for yourself. You go where you want, and you keep all the money from the furs you find. It is a lonely life, but you like the freedom. You do not have to listen to a boss. You only have to listen to the mountains. This is a historical fact. Many men chose this life because they loved the quiet and the wild places more than the busy life of the towns. The snow is very deep around your chosen spot. You cannot just lay your blankets on top of it. You need to clear the ground. You do not have a shovel, so you use your hands and your feet. You push the snow away in a wide circle. The snow is dry and powdery. It feels like cold sand. It gets into the cracks of your gloves. You keep pushing until you see the dark ground. The earth is frozen hard. It is covered in brown needles from the trees. These needles have a nice earthy smell. They feel a bit soft, which is good for sleeping. You look at the wind. You can tell which way it is blowing by looking at the tops of the trees. They are leaning slightly to the east. This means the wind is coming from the west. You must build your shelter so the back of it faces the west. This way the wind will hit the roof and go over the top of you. It will not blow into the open front of your lean-to. You are building a little pocket of still air. In the cold, still air is your best friend. Moving air, or wind, takes the heat away from your body very quickly. You start to move the heavy poles you cut earlier. You place them carefully against the cedar tree. You make sure the bottom of each pole is pushed deep into the snow so it will not slip. You are building the skeleton of your house. It feels good to use your muscles. It keeps the blood flowing to your fingers and toes. You can feel the warmth of your own breath on your face. It smells like the dried meat you ate for lunch. The sky is now very dark navy blue. The moon is higher now, and it casts long silver shadows across the snow. You stop what you're doing and stand perfectly still. Moment of silence. You hear a sound far away. It is a long, low howl. It is a wolf. The sound echoes off the stone walls of the mountains. Ah, oh. It is a beautiful sound, but it reminds you that you are not alone. The wolves are out there in the dark, hunting for their own dinner. They stay away from humans usually, but the sound makes you feel small. It makes you realize how big the wilderness truly is. You are just a guest here. You go back to work. You need to make the floor of your shelter comfortable. You gather more of those soft pine branches. You lay them down on the cleared ground in a thick layer. You want the layer to be at least 6 inches deep. This creates a cushion of air between you and the frozen ground. The ground is like a giant sponge that wants to suck the heat out of your body. These branches are your shield. You lay them all in the same direction, with the soft needles pointing towards where your head will be. This makes the bed feel smoother. As you work, you notice a small bird landing on a branch nearby. It is a chickadee. It is a tiny bird with a black cap on its head. It looks like a little ball of fluff. You wonder how something so small can stay alive in such a cold place. The bird looks at you with its tiny black eyes and then flits away. It has its own secret places to stay warm. Nature has a way of taking care of its own. You look at your hands. The skin is red from the cold. You rub them together. You can feel the rough texture of your palms. You have many small scars from years of working with wood and leather. Each scar is a story. There is the one from the time you slipped with your axe, and the one from the time a beaver bit you. These scars show that you have survived. They are like a map of your life in the mountains. You decide to make the walls of your shelter a bit thicker. You find some pieces of bark that have fallen from the trees. This bark is thick and heavy. You lean the pieces of bark against the bottom of your pine branch roof. This will keep the snow from drifting inside if the wind changes during the night. You are being very careful. In the night shift of the mountains, being careful is what keeps you alive until the morning. You think about the food you have in your pack. You have a small piece of pemmican. This is a special kind of food that mountain men and Native Americans use. It is made of dried meat that has been pounded into a powder and mixed with melted fat and dried berries. It does not look very good, but it is full of energy. A small piece can keep a man walking all day. It is the original power bar. You decide you will eat some as soon as your fire is going. The air is getting even colder now. You can feel the hair inside your nose starting to freeze. This is a sign that it is very cold indeed. You need to hurry with the shelter so you can start the fire. The fire is the heart of the camp. Without the fire, the lean-to is just a pile of sticks. With the fire, it becomes a home. You look at the pile of dry wood you have started to gather. You need more. You need a lot more. A fire for the whole night takes a mountain of wood. You find a fallen pine tree nearby. It is dead and dry. This is perfect. You use your heavy axe to chop it into smaller pieces. Thwack, thwack, thwack. The sound of the axe hitting the wood is loud in the quiet valley. You can see the white chips of wood flying through the air. They land in the snow like little brown boats. You enjoy the feeling of the axe in your hands. It is a heavy, solid tool. The handle is made of hickory wood, which is very strong. You carry the logs back to your camp, 2 at a time. You stack them neatly near the front of your lean-to. You want them to be close enough so you can reach them from your bed without getting up. You are planning for later, when you will be warm under your furs and the world outside is freezing. You want to be able to just reach out and toss a new log on the fire. The shelter is looking good. The roof is thick with green needles. The floor is soft with pine boughs. The back is pushed up against the big cedar tree. It feels solid. You crawl inside to test the space. It is small and cozy. You can smell the fresh scent of the cut pine. It is a very relaxing smell. It reminds you of the holidays back home. But here, it is just the smell of survival. You lie back for a second and look out. You can see the snowy peaks of the mountains glowing in the moonlight. They look like giant teeth reaching for the stars. You feel a sense of peace. You have done the hard work of the evening. You have found the spot, built the frame, and made the bed. You have followed the rules of the mountains. You have looked for the flat ground and the thick trees. You have checked for danger from above. You have prepared for the wind. Now you are ready for the next step. You are ready to bring the light and the heat to this cold, dark place. You are the watchman, and you are doing your job well. You sit inside your small home and look at the way it is built. It is very simple. To some people, it might just look like a pile of sticks leaning against a tree. But there is a special way to make it work. This is called a lean-to. It is named that because it is a roof that leans to one side. It only has 3 walls, and sometimes only one big slanted roof. You might think that having one side completely open to the cold would be a bad idea. You might think you would freeze without a door to close. But the open side is the most important part of the whole plan. It is the door that lets the warmth of your fire inside. If you built a small house with 4 walls and a door, the fire would have to be inside with you. That would fill the room with smoke and make it hard to breathe. But with a lean-to, the fire stays outside in the fresh air. The slanted roof acts like a big hand. It catches the heat that comes off the fire and pushes it down toward your body. It is a very clever way to stay warm without getting a face full of smoke. You reach up and touch one of the poles. It is rough and cold. You can feel the bits of bark under your fingertips. This simple shape has kept men like you alive for hundreds of years. The angle of the roof is very important. You have made it steep. If the roof were too flat, the snow would pile up on top of it. Snow is very heavy. If too much of it gathered on your roof, the poles might snap in the middle of the night. That would be a very bad surprise, but because your roof is slanted, the snow will slide right off the back. It will pile up against the bottom of the roof and act like extra insulation. Insulation is just a word for something that keeps the heat in and the cold out. The snow itself will help keep you warm by blocking the wind from the back and the sides. A historical fact you know well is that mountain men almost never build cabins. Building a cabin takes a long time. You have to cut down many big trees and notch them together. You have to fill the gaps with mud. A trapper is a man on the move. You follow the beaver. When the beaver are gone from one stream, you must move to the next. You might stay in one place for only a few days or a week. Because of this, you have become an expert at building these quick shelters. You can put one up in less than an hour if you have to. It is the home of a person who is always traveling, a person who lives with the rhythm of the seasons. You reach into your pocket and pull out a small tool. It is an awl. This is your micro-history detail for the evening. An awl is a sharp, pointed piece of metal with a wooden handle. It looks a bit like a tiny ice pick. You use it to poke holes in leather so you can sew things together. Earlier, you noticed a small rip in your leather bag. You decide to fix it now while you have a moment of peace. You push the sharp point through the tough deerskin. It makes a small pop sound as it goes through. You move slowly. There is no rush. In the mountains, you learn to be patient with your hands. The air inside the lean-to is already starting to feel a little bit different than the air outside. It is still very cold, but it is quiet. The wind is howling through the trees, but it is not hitting your face anymore. You lean back against the soft pine branches you laid down. They feel springy, like a mattress. The smell of the crushed needles is very strong now. It is a deep, green smell. It makes you feel like you are part of the forest itself. You look out from under the edge of your roof. Moment of silence. The world outside looks very big and very white. The moonlight is so bright that you can see the shadows of the tiny twigs on the snow. It is a world of silver and shadow. You feel very small sitting here under your sticks and needles. You are like a mouse in a nest. Everything out there is frozen. The water in the streams is turning to ice. The sap inside the trees is moving very slowly. The whole world has slowed down to wait for the sun to come back. But you are still moving. You are still thinking. You are the only thing that is awake and warm in this part of the valley. You think about the shape of the lean-to again. It is a shape that people have used since the very beginning of time. It is the simplest way to stay dry. You remember seeing the camps of the Native Americans who live in these mountains. They sometimes use shelters like this when they are out on a hunt. They know the secrets of the wind and the wood, just like you do. You have learned a lot from watching how they live. They taught you how to pick the right branches and how to find the dry wood that hides under the snow. You feel a sense of respect for the people who walk these paths long before you were born. Your roof is not just for warmth, it is for safety too. When you are tucked away inside, it is harder for an animal to see you. You blend in with the trees and the shadows. You feel like you have a little fortress. You look at the heavy logs you have stacked for the fire. They are waiting for the spark. You know that once the fire is going, the inside of your lean-to will turn a beautiful orange color. The wood of the poles will glow in the light. The needles of the roof will look like gold. It will be the most beautiful room you have ever seen. You take a piece of dry moss from your pocket. You find this moss on the north side of trees. It is very soft and dry, like a piece of cotton. This will be your tinder. Tinder is the very small, dry stuff that catches a spark and starts a fire. You also have some kindling. Kindling is the name for small twigs that are as thin as your finger. You have a neat pile of both. You are very organized. A mountain man who is not organized will soon find himself in trouble. You keep your tools in the same place every night so you can find them even in the dark. The cold is really starting to bite now. You can feel it through your thick trousers. The frozen ground is trying to pull the warmth out of your legs. You shift your weight on your bed of branches. You make sure the branches are thick enough. You add a few more that you had saved. You want to be as high off the snow as possible. You think about how lucky you are to have found this spot. The cedar tree is like an old friend, standing guard over you. Its thick trunk is like a wall behind your head. You look at your leather gloves. They are a bit wet from handling the snow. You take them off and tuck them inside your coat, close to your body. The heat from your skin will help dry them out. Your hands look very white in the moonlight. You rub them together, and the sound of skin on skin is loud in the silence. You can feel the calluses on your palms. Calluses are patches of tough, thick skin that grow when you work hard with your hands. They are like natural gloves. They protect you when you are swinging your axe or pulling on a rope. You look at the sky again. The stars are so thick that it is hard to see the black space between them. There is the Milky Way, looking like a long trail of white smoke across the ceiling of the world. You know the names of some of the stars, but to you they are mostly just markers. They tell you which way is north and how much of the night is left. They are like a big clock in the sky. When the Big Dipper turns a certain way, you know it is time to wake up and get moving. You feel a little bit of a breeze. It comes from the side, just a tiny puff of air. You realize you need to close up one of the side gaps in your lean-to. You pick up some more pine branches and weave them between the poles. You do it carefully, making sure there are no holes. You are like a bird building a nest. Every little bit of work you do now will make your sleep better later. You want to be so warm that you can dream of summer while the snow falls outside. You think about the word home. For most people, home is a place with a garden and a fence. But for you, home is wherever you lay your buffalo robe. Home is this little patch of dirt and needles. Home is the smell of the pine and the sound of the fire. You don't feel lonely. You feel like you belong here. The mountains are big and they can be mean, but they are also honest. They don't pretend to be anything they are not. If you are smart and you work hard, they will let you stay. You are almost ready to start the fire. You have your shelter, your bed, and your wood. You have checked the wind and the trees. You have fixed your gear with your awl. You have done everything a good trapper should do. You take a deep breath and let it out. The white cloud of your breath is very thick now. It is time to bring the heat. It is time to change this cold blue world into a warm orange one. You reach for your flint and steel, ready to make the first spark of the night. You are the watchman, and your house is ready. The moon is high now, and the forest is painted in shades of silver and black. You can see the light reflecting off the tiny crystals of frost on the tree trunks. It is time to gather the most important part of your shelter, the green boughs. A bough is just a large, heavy branch from an evergreen tree. You need these because they stay green and thick all winter. They do not lose their leaves like the oak or the maple trees. These pine needles will be your shingles. They will keep the wind out and the warmth in. You reach for the tool hanging from your belt. This is a belt axe, sometimes called a half axe by the men in the mountains. This belt axe is your micro-history detail for this part of the night. It is smaller than a woodcutter's axe, but heavier than a knife. The head is made of forged iron with a steel edge that stays sharp even when hitting frozen wood. The handle is made of seasoned hickory. Hickory is a very special wood because it is incredibly strong and a little bit bouncy. If you hit a hard knot in the wood, a hickory handle will not snap like a piece of pine wood. You wrap your fingers around the smooth wood. It feels solid and dependable in your hand. You have carried this axe for hundreds of miles, and it has never let you down. You walk toward a group of young pine trees. You are looking for a specific kind of tree. A historical fact that every mountain man knows is that the balsam fir is the best tree for a camp. The needles of a balsam fir are flat and soft. They're not prickly like the needles on a spruce tree. If you use spruce, the needles will poke through your clothes and make you itchy all night. But the balsam is soft, almost like a blanket of feathers. You find a good balsam tree and reach out to touch a branch. It is cold, and a little bit of snow falls onto your glove. You lift your belt axe. You do not need to swing hard. You use the weight of the axe to do the work. Thud. The blade sinks into the soft wood of the branch. The sound is muffled by the thick snow all around you. You cut the branch near the trunk of the tree. It falls into the snow with a soft whomp sound. You can smell the scent of the tree immediately. It is a very strong, sweet smell. It is the smell of resin. Resin is the sticky juice that flows inside the tree. It is like the tree's blood. It is very sticky, like honey, and it smells like the cleanest forest in the world. You cut another branch, and then another. You work with a slow, steady rhythm. You do not want to get out of breath. If you breathe too hard, the cold air can make your chest ache. You take your time. You watch the way the axe moves through the air. You watch the way the white wood shows under the dark bark. It is a simple task, but it is one that makes you feel good. You are taking what the forest gives you to make your life better. You are a part of this place now. You gather a large pile of these green boughs. They are heavy because they are full of sap and covered in a little bit of ice. You grab 3 or 4 of them by the thick ends and drag them back toward your lean-to. The branches leave a long, smooth trail in the snow behind you. It looks like the track of a large animal. You walk back and forth between the trees and your camp. Each trip makes your pile of boughs bigger. You want to have more than you think you need. In the mountains, it is always better to have too much wood than too little. As you drop a load of branches near your shelter, you stop for a moment. Moment of silence. The world is so quiet that you can hear the sound of your own blood rushing in your ears. It is a soft, humming sound. You look up through the gaps in the trees. The stars are shifting slowly across the sky. You feel like the only person left on earth. There is no one to talk to, no one to shout for, but you do not feel lonely. You feel like you're being watched over by the mountains themselves. The big peaks are like silent giants, standing still in the moonlight. They have seen thousands of winters, and they will see thousands more. You go back to the balsam tree. There is one very large branch that is perfect for the very top of your roof. You give it a firm chop with your axe. As the branch breaks free, a large clump of snow falls from the branches above. It hits your hat and shoulders. It is cold and heavy, like a bucket of ice water. You laugh softly to yourself and shake the snow off. This is just part of life in the high country. You cannot get angry at the trees or the snow. You just have to brush it off and keep moving. You pick up the large branch. You notice that your gloves are getting sticky from the resin. This sticky juice will stay on your gloves for a long time. It will make them smell like pine, even when you are back in a warm cabin months from now. You like the smell. It is a reminder of the work you do. You carry the last of the boughs back to your lean-to. You have a huge pile of green now, standing out against the white snow. You begin to layer the branches onto your wooden frame. You start at the bottom, just like you would if you were putting shingles on a house in the city. You lay the branches so the needles point down toward the ground. This is a very clever trick. If it snows or rains, the water will run down the needles and drip off the edge of the roof. It will not soak through and drip on your head. You are building a natural umbrella. You tuck the thick ends of the branches under the poles to keep them from sliding off. As you work, you think about how these branches feel. They are springy and full of life. Even though it is the middle of winter, the tree is still alive inside. You feel a sense of thanks to the tree. You are using its arms to keep you safe. You make sure the layer of green is very thick. You do not want to see any gaps where the moonlight can peek through. If light can get in, the wind can get in too. You use the smaller twigs to fill in the little holes. You are like a weaver, making a blanket out of wood and needles. The cold is pressing against your back. Your coat is thick, but the winter is very strong tonight. You can feel the heat from your body trying to escape into the air. You move a bit faster now, layering the boughs with practiced hands. You have done this so many times that you do not even have to think about it. Your hands know where the branches should go. They know how to tuck the stems and how to overlap the needles. This is the skill of the night shift. While the rest of the world is asleep in their beds, you are building your own bed with your bare hands. You look at your pile of boughs. It is almost gone. You have covered the back and the sides of your lean-to. It looks like a small green hill sitting in the snow. You crawl inside for a second to see how it feels. It is much darker inside now. The green walls block out the bright moonlight. The air inside smells very strongly of balsam. It is a heavy, comforting smell. It makes you want to close your eyes and rest, but you know you are not done yet. You still have to finish the roof and prepare the floor. You come back out and pick up the last few branches. You save the very best, thickest boughs for the top. You place them carefully, making sure they overlap the ones below them. Now your roof is complete. It is a thick mat of green needles. It looks strong. You give the poles a little shake. They do not move. The weight of the branches has pinned the frame down. It is a solid little house. It is not big and it is not fancy, but it is yours. You stand back and look at what you have built. In less than an hour, you have turned a patch of snow into a shelter. You have used your belt axe and your knowledge of the trees to create a place of safety. You look at the dark green balsam needles. They look black in the shadows. You think about the night shift workers back in the towns, the people who light the street lamps or the guards who walk the walls. They have their own jobs to do. This is your job. Your job is to stay alive and stay warm. You feel a bit of pride in your chest. You are a mountain man and you know how to handle the winter. You are not afraid of the snow or the cold. You have the tools and the skills to survive. You look at the belt axe in your hand. The steel blade catches a glint of moonlight. It is a beautiful tool. You wipe the blade on a piece of dry moss to clean off the resin, then you slide it back into the leather sheath on your belt. Click. The sound of the strap closing is a very satisfying noise. It means the work of building is done. The wind gives a little moan in the tops of the trees. It is a lonely sound, but you do not mind it. You are tucked away in your little green room. You are ready for the next part of the night. You have the roof over your head. Now you need the fire in front of you. You look at the spot where the fire will go. It is waiting for you. The forest has given you the branches for your bed and your roof. Now it will give you the wood for your warmth. You are the watchman of this little camp, and you are doing a fine job. The frame of your shelter is the most important part of your house. It is the skeleton that holds everything up. If the skeleton is weak, the whole building will fall down when the wind blows or the snow gets heavy. You look at the big cedar tree again. It is very old, and its bark is thick and rough. But even a strong tree needs help to make a roof. You look for a second tree, or perhaps a large fallen log, to help you make a ridge pole. A ridge pole is the main beam that runs along the top of your roof. It is like the spine in your back. It holds everything together. You find a long, straight pine tree that fell down a long time ago. It is seasoned, which means it has been dead for a while, and the wood is very dry and strong. It is about 10 feet long. You grab one end of it. The wood feels icy and rough against your palms. You have to pull hard to move it through the snow. Your boots sink deep, and you have to lean your whole body forward to drag the log towards your cedar tree. This is the hard work of the night shift. There is no one to help you. You have to rely on your own muscles and your own clever mind. A historical fact you might like to know is that most mountain men did not carry tents. Tents in the 1830s were made of very heavy canvas. When canvas gets wet and then freezes, it becomes as stiff as a sheet of metal. It is very hard to fold up and carry on a horse. A tent would also be a very heavy thing to carry if you were walking on foot. Because of this, the lean-to was the most common hotel in the mountains. It was a home you could build anywhere you found trees and a knife. It allowed the trappers to move fast and stay light, which was the only way to survive in the wild. You lift one end of the long pine log. You place it into the V shape, where a thick branch meets the trunk of the cedar tree. This is a natural hook. It holds the log steady. The other end of the log sits on the ground, or you might prop it up with a bipod. A bipod is just two sticks tied together in the shape of a letter X. You reach into your possibles bag for a piece of babiche. This is your microhistory. Detail for the night. Babiche is a long, thin strip of raw leather, usually made from the skin of a deer or an elk. When babiche is wet, it is very stretchy and soft, but as it dries, it shrinks and becomes as hard as iron. You wrap the babiche around the place where your poles meet. You tie a tight knot. As the cold air dries the leather, the knot will get tighter and tighter. It is better than any nail or screw you could buy in a shop. It binds the wood together so tightly that even a strong man could not pull it apart. You stand back and look at the frame. It is a simple triangle shape. One side is the ground, one side is the cedar tree, and one side is your new ridgepole. Now you need the ribs. These are the smaller poles that will lean against the ridgepole. You go back into the forest to find them. You are looking for wood that is about as thick as your wrist. You find several young saplings that have been pushed over by the heavy snow. They are perfect. You use your belt axe to trim the small twigs off them. The sound of the axe is a sharp tock, tock, tock. As you work, you look at the way the moonlight hits the snow. Moment of silence. The world is so bright that you do not need a lamp. The snow reflects the light of the moon, making everything look like it is made of silver. You can see your own shadow on the ground. It is long and dark. You feel like a giant in this small valley. The only sound is the tiny pinning noise of the sap freezing inside the trees. It sounds like small bells ringing very far away. It is a beautiful cold music. You carry the ribs back to your camp. You lean them against your ridgepole one by one. You space them out so there is about a foot of room between each one. This will create a strong grid. When you put your green branches on top later, they will have plenty of support. You push the bottom of each rib deep into the snow until it hits the hard frozen earth. You want them to be solid. You don't want your roof to slide away in the middle of the night. You are building a house that follows the rules of the mountains. You are not fighting nature, you are using it. You are using the slant of the roof to catch the heat. You are using the leather strips to hold the wood. You are using the trees to block the wind. You feel a sense of calm. Even though it is freezing and you are all alone, you know exactly what to do. You have learned these skills from years of living under the sky. You think about the texture of the bark on the poles. Some of it is smooth and some of it is shaggy. You can feel the coldness of the wood through your gloves. It is a dry, biting cold. You rub your arms to stay warm. The movement of building the frame is good for you. It keeps your heart beating fast. It keeps the furnace of your body running. You are your own source of heat right now. You check each pole to make sure it is steady. You grab the ridge pole and give it a good shake. It does not move. The cedar tree holds one end and the babiche holds the other. It is a strong building. It is a piece of architecture that would make a master builder proud, even though it is just made of sticks. In the mountains, beauty is not about how a building looks. It is about how well it works. If it keeps you dry and warm, it is the most beautiful house in the world. You look at the ground inside your frame. You have cleared away the snow, but the earth is still very cold. You decide to add more support to the bottom of the frame. You find some heavy rocks near the base of the mountain and carry them over. You place them against the bottom of the poles. This adds weight and keeps the wind from blowing under the edge of your roof. The rocks are cold and heavy. They feel like blocks of ice in your hands. You have to be careful not to drop them on your toes. You think about the other mountain men you have met at the rendezvous. The rendezvous was a big party and a market that happened once a year in the summer. All the trappers would come together to sell their furs and buy new supplies. They would tell stories about the winters they survived. Some stories were about bears and some were about great storms, but the best stories were always about the quiet nights by the fire. You are making your own story right now. You are the watchman of this night and you are building a safe place to rest. The frame is now finished. It looks like the skeleton of a great beast. The ribs are all in place and the spine is strong. You feel a sense of relief. The hardest part of the building is over. Now you can move on to the thatching. That is a fancy word for putting the roof on. You will use the green balsam boughs you gathered earlier, but for a moment you just stand there and look at the shape you have made. It is a simple triangle of wood against the dark sky. You look at your hands. You have a few small scratches on your leather gloves from the rough bark. You touch the babiche knot one more time. It is already starting to feel stiffer. The cold is working for you, turning the leather into a solid bond. You feel like you are part of a long line of men who have done exactly this. From the very first humans who walked into the cold to the trappers of today, everyone has needed a frame to hold up their world. The wind picks up a little bit. It whistles through the empty ribs of your frame. It sounds like a ghost whispering in the dark. That you were not afraid. You know that soon, those ribs will be covered in thick green needles. The wind will not be able to whisper to you anymore. It will have to stay outside. You are creating a microclimate. That means a very small area where the weather is different than it is everywhere else. Inside your lean-to, it will be still and quiet. Outside, it will be wild and freezing. You take a deep breath. The air is so cold it makes your teeth ache, but it also tastes very pure. There is no dust here's very pure. There is no smoke yet. There is only the smell of the snow and the pine. You feel very awake. The night shift requires you to be alert. You have to pay attention to every detail. Is the log steady? Is the knot tight? Is the ground flat? You answer yes to all of these questions. You have done your work well. You reach for the first green branch. It is time to turn this skeleton into a home. You feel the weight of the night pressing down on the mountains, but you have your little triangle of safety. You are the watchman, and your frame is ready to protect you. You feel a sense of warmth in your heart, even though your skin is cold. You are ready to keep going. You are ready to the long, quiet hours of the mountain night. The frame is standing strong. And now it is time to turn those wooden ribs into a solid wall. You pick up a large armful of the green balsam branches you cut earlier. This part of the job is like weaving a basket, but on a much larger scale. You start at the very bottom of the lean-to, near the ground. You push the thick, woody ends of the branches into the deep snow and lean them against the first few poles. You make sure the soft needles are pointing down toward the earth. This is the secret of a good mounting roof. It lets the gravity do the work. If any moisture hits the roof, it will just follow the path of the needles and drip onto the snow outside. You move to the next layer. You place these branches so they overlap the bottom ones, just like the scales on a fish or the feathers on a bird's wing. You are building a thick mat of green. You use your hands to press the branches down firmly. You can feel the springy resistance of the wood. It wants to push back, but you tuck the stems behind the horizontal poles of your frame to lock them in place. This is thatching. In the old days back in England, people used straw or reeds to thatch the roofs of their cottages. Out here in the Rocky Mountains, you use what the forest gives you. Balsam and pine are your straw, and they work just as well. A historical fact that is good to remember is that mountain men often called their shelters wickiups if they were more rounded. But the lean-to was the king of the trail because of how fast it could be built. You aren't just building for tonight, you are building for the night shift of the whole season. You know that a well-layered roof can keep a man dry even in a heavy rain. Since it is winter, you are more worried about the wind and the fine biting snow that looks like flour. This flour snow can find its way through the smallest hole. So, you go over your work again. You take small handfuls of pine needles and stuff them into any gap where you can see the moonlight peeking through. You reach into your pack and pull out a small piece of fat wood. This is your microhistory detail for this section. Fat wood comes from the heart of an old pine tree that has died. It is wood that is completely soaked in dried sap or resin. It is very heavy and feels almost like a piece of plastic or stone. If you hold it up to the moon, it almost looks like amber. Fat wood is amazing because it will catch fire even if it is wet. You keep a few sticks of it in your bag at all times. It is your emergency light. You don't need it yet, but just touching it makes you feel safe. You know that no matter how cold it gets, you have the power to make fire in your pocket. You step back and look at your progress. The back of the lean-to is now a solid wall of dark green. It looks like a small hill of needles. You walk to the sides and begin the same process. You want the sides to come forward a little bit, wrapping around like the arms of a chair. This will create a windbreak. A windbreak is exactly what it sounds like. It breaks the wind so the air inside your shelter stays still. You use the smaller, bushier branches for the sides. They are easier to weave together. Your hands are moving slower now because the cold is starting to seep through your gloves, but you don't stop. You have a rhythm now. Reach, tuck, press, reach, tuck, press. The silence of the high valley is deep and heavy. Moment of silence. You stop for a moment to breathe. The only thing you hear is the sound of your own breath, which sounds like a soft whistle. Then you hear a crack from the forest. It is a sharp, loud sound, like a pistol going off. You don't jump. You know what that is. It is the frost crack. It happens when the sap inside a tree freezes so fast that it expands and splits the wood open. It is a reminder of how powerful the cold is tonight. The mountains are speaking to you, telling you that the temperature is dropping even further. It is a sign that you must finish your work soon. You finish the side walls and move to the very top, the ridge pole. This is the hardest part to seal. You take the longest, flattest branches you have and lay them across the top like a cap. You want them to hang over both sides. This creates a peak that sheds snow in two directions. You use some extra pieces of babiche, that raw leather string, to tie these top branches down. You don't want a sudden gust of wind to peel your roof off like an orange skin. You pull the leather tight, and you can feel it bite into the green bark. It is a good, solid connection. The inside of the Lean-To is now very dark. You crawl inside on your hands and knees to check for leaks. The air inside smells wonderful. It is the smell of 1,000 Christmas trees all at once. It is a thick, resinous scent that clears your nose and makes you feel calm. You look up. There are no more stars visible through the roof. It is a solid ceiling of balsa. You feel a great sense of satisfaction. You have built a house with no nails, no saw, and no help. You have used your axe and your hands to create a place where a human being can stay alive in a world that is made for ice and wolves. You look at the floor again. Now that the roof is on, you can see where the wind might sneak in, at the bottom. You take the leftover rubbish, the small twigs and loose needles, and you pile them up against the inside base of the walls. You are caulking your house. Caulking is what sailors do to their ships to keep the water out. You are doing it to keep the air out. You use your boots to pack the needles down tight. Every bit of insulation helps. You want to make this little space so tight that the heat from your own body will start to warm it up. You sit down in the center of your new home. You lean your back against the cedar tree. The bark feels rough through your buckskin coat. You look out at the open front. The view is like a painting. The white snow, the blue shadows, and the jagged mountains in the distance. You are the only person seeing this right now. You are the watchman of this valley. You feel a strange kind of peace. Back in the towns, people are worried about taxes, or clothes, or what their neighbors think. Out here, none of that matters. The only thing that matters is the wood, the fire, and the stars. You notice your fingers are starting to ache. This is a warning. You have been working with the cold branches for a long time. You take your gloves off for a second and tuck your hands into your armpits. This is the fastest way to warm them up. You can feel the heat of your chest through your shirt. It feels like a small stove. You sit there for a few minutes, letting the blood return to your fingertips. They start to tingle and glow. This is called the hot eeks, and it's a good sign. It means your body is still strong and fighting the cold. You think about the night shift you are about to pull. You won't be sleeping like a person in a city bed. You will sleep in short bursts. You will wake up every hour or two to check the fire. You will listen to the wind. You will stay half awake, like a dog sleeping by a door. This is how the mountain men stay safe. You learn to listen to the forest even while you dream. If a branch breaks or the wind changes, you will know it instantly. You are part of the landscape now, just like the elk or the mountain lion. You look at the pile of branches you have left. You decide to use them to make your bed even thicker. You lay them down in a herringbone pattern. This means you lay them in a zigzag, with the soft tips overlapping the woody stems. This makes the bed very bouncy and keeps you even further away from the frozen earth. You test it with your hand. It feels like a thick green cushion. It is probably the most comfortable bed you have had in weeks. You can't wait to wrap yourself in your buffalo robe and sink into it. But first, you have to prepare the fire. The lean-to is just the shell. The fire is the soul. You look at the open space in front of your shelter. You need to clear more snow there. You also need to find the right rocks for your reflector fire. This is the next big job. You take a deep breath, pull your gloves back on, and crawl out of your cozy green nest. The cold hits your face like a slap, but you don't mind. You have a plan. You have a home. You are a mountain man, and the night is yours to command. You pick up your axe again. The metal is dull and grey in the moonlight. You feel a surge of energy. You are ready to build the fire that will keep the winter at bay. You are the watchman, and your house is built. Now it is time to bring the light. You crawl back inside your green shelter. It is much darker in here now that the roof is finished. The light from the moon only comes in through the big opening at the front. The air inside is very still. It is a strange feeling. Outside, the world is wide and cold. Inside, the world is small and quiet. But there is a problem. The floor of your home is still covered in cold white snow. You cannot sleep on the snow. If you lie down on it, the heat from your body will travel through your clothes. It will melt the snow and turn it into water. Then your clothes will get wet. In the mountains, being wet is a very bad thing. It makes the cold much stronger. It can make you sick or worse. You must clear the ground until it is bare. You kneel down on your hands and knees. You find a large, flat piece of wood that you trimmed from one of the poles. This will be your shovel. You start to scrape the snow out of the lean-to. You push it toward the front opening. The snow is very light and dry. It looks like white dust. As you scrape, it makes a soft shush, shush sound. You work carefully, moving from the back wall toward the front. You want to make sure every bit of white is gone. You can feel the coldness of the snow through your leather trousers, even with the thick wall underneath. It is a deep, biting cold that tries to get into your knees. After a few minutes of scraping, you see something dark under the snow. It is the duff. This is a word mountain men use for the floor of the forest. It is made of old brown pine needles, tiny twigs, and bits of dried moss that have fallen over many years. You reach out and touch it with your bare hand for a second. The ground is frozen as hard as a rock. It feels like ice, but it is dry. This is exactly what you want. Dry ground is much easier to keep warm than wet snow. You keep scraping until you have a clear, brown rectangle of earth inside your shelter. It is about 6 feet long and 4 feet wide. This is your bedroom. A historical fact you might find interesting is that mountain men often called their sleeping spot a trapper's nest. They did not think of it as a bed with sheets and pillows. They thought of it as a nest, like what a bird or a bear would make. They knew that to stay warm, they had to be like the animals. They had to use layers and layers of dry things to keep the cold ground from stealing their heat. You're making your nest now. You're following an old way of living that has worked for a very long time. You reach for the pile of green balsam branches you saved for the floor. This is the most important part of the nest. You do not just throw them down in a pile. You have to be clever about it. You take the first branch and lay it at the very head of your bed where your pillow would be. You make sure the cut end of the branch is pointing toward the bottom. Then you take the next branch and lay it over the first one, covering the woody stem. You are layering them like the feathers on a bird. This is called the herringbone style because it looks like the bones of a fish. You continue this all the way down to the foot of the bed. You make the layer very thick. You want it to be at least as deep as your hand is wide. When you press down on it with your palm, it feels bouncy and soft. It smells like the freshest forest you can imagine. This thick layer of green needles does two things. First, it makes the hard ground feel soft. Second, and more importantly, it traps air. Hair is a very good insulator. That means it stops the heat from moving. The air trapped between the needles will warm up from your body, and the cold from the frozen ground will stay down below. You stop for a minute and sit on your new bed. Moment of silence. The valley is so quiet that you can hear the tiny sound of your own heart. Thump, thump, thump. It is a steady, warm sound in a world that is frozen and still. You look out at the mountains. They look like giant pieces of blue glass under the moon. You feel a sense of peace that you never feel in a town. There are no people shouting, no wagons rattling on the pavement, and no bells ringing. There is only the silence of the snow. It is a very heavy silence, like a thick blanket that has been laid over the whole world. You feel very small, but you also feel very safe in your little green nest. You reach into your pack to find your bedding. You pull out a very special item. It is a Hudson's Bay point blanket. This is your microhistory detail for this part of the night. This blanket is made of very thick, heavy wool. It is a cream color with bright stripes of red, yellow, green, and blue on the ends. But the most important part are the points. These are small black lines woven into the side of the blanket. You count them with your finger. 1, 2, 3.5. These points tell you how big and heavy the blanket is. A 4-point blanket is the biggest and warmest one they make. This wool is very special. It is woven so tightly that it can almost block the wind. Even better, wool is one of the only things in the world that stays warm even if it gets wet. If a little bit of snow blows into your shelter and melts on the blanket, the wool will still keep you toasty. You shake the blanket out. It is heavy and it makes a dull whomp sound as the air hits it. You lay it down on top of your green branches. The bright stripes look very pretty against the dark green needles. It makes your little lean-to look like a real home. You look at the way the blanket sits on the branches. You want to make sure it is flat. You don't want any lumps or sticks poking you in the back while you try to sleep. You smooth it out with your hands. The wool feels a bit scratchy, but it also feels very strong and warm. You have had this blanket for 3 years. It has been your bed in the desert, in the deep woods, and here in the high mountains. It smells a little bit like wood smoke and old leather. To you, That is the smell of a good night's sleep. You think about the night shift again. In a few hours, the moon will move across the sky and the shadows will change. The cold will get even deeper. But you are prepared. You have cleared the snow. You have built a thick, springy mattress of balsam. You have laid down your heavy wool blanket. You are building your world one step at a time. You are not rushing. In the mountains, if you rush, you make mistakes. If you make mistakes, you get coal. You are being slow and careful, like a craftsman. You look at your boots. They are covered in a fine layer of frost. You use a small handful of dry pine needles to brush the frost off. You don't want the frost to melt and turn into water later. You are always thinking about staying dry. You check your possibles bag one more time. You make sure your flint and steel are right where you can reach them. You are almost ready to start the fire, but you want to make sure your sleeping spot is perfect first. You crawl to the back of the lean-to and push the branches around until they fit perfectly against the wall. You feel a little bit of tiredness in your arms and legs. The work of the day has been long. You walked many miles through the deep snow before you found this spot. Your muscles are happy to be resting for a moment. You lie back on the blanket just to test it. Oh, it feels wonderful. It is much better than the hard ground. You can feel the spring of the branches underneath you. It is like floating on a green cloud. The smell of the balsam is all around you. It is a very relaxing smell. It makes your brain feel quiet and calm. But you cannot sleep yet. The night shift has just begun. You still have the most important job of all to do. You have the house and you have the bed, but you do not have the heat. Without the fire, you would still be very cold before the morning comes. You sit up and look out at the dark space in front of your shelter. That is where the fire will go. You need to prepare that ground just as carefully as you prepared your bed. You need to make a place where the fire can breathe and grow. You take a deep breath. The air is so cold it feels like a sharp knife in your nose, but you feel strong. You have done the hard work of building. You have made a nest that is worthy of a mountain man. You look at the Hudson's Bay blanket and the green branches. You feel a sense of pride. You are the watchman of this little camp, and you are doing everything right. You have followed the rules of the woods. You have used the gifts of the trees and the wool of the sheep to make a safe place. You reach for your belt axe. You need to go out one more time to find the logs for your reflector fire. This fire will be the engine that keeps your nest warm. You crawl out of your shelter, leaving the cozy green world for the big, blue, frozen one outside. The snow crunches under your boots again. The moon is watching you from high above. You feel ready. You have a home to come back to now. You have a bed waiting for you. Now, you just need to bring the light. You are the watchman, and your work is nearly done. The shelter is ready, and your bed is a soft green nest. But now you must build the reflector fire. This is the most important trick of the mountain man. If you just build a regular fire in the snow, the heat goes up into the sky and is lost. You want the heat to come inside the lean-to with you. To do this, you need a wall, not a wall for your house, but a wall for your fire. You walk a few paces in front of your shelter. You are looking for 2 strong, green stakes. These are long branches, about as thick as your arm. You sharpen the ends of them with your belt axe until they are pointy. Then you drive them into the frozen ground, about 3 feet apart. They stand up straight, like 2 fingers reaching for the moon. Now you need the logs. You find several thick, heavy logs of fallen pine. These logs are your bricks. You stack them one on top of the other, leaning them against the 2 stakes you just drove into the ground. As you stack them, you create a solid wooden wall about 3 feet high. It sits directly across from the opening of your lean-to. This is the reflector. It is called that because it works just like a mirror. When the fire burns between you and this wall, the heat hits the logs and bounces back toward you. Instead of the heat blowing away with the wind, it is pushed right into your little green room. This is the difference between a cold night and a toasty one. A historical fact you know is that the reflector fire was the secret to surviving the deadly snows. Many people who were new to the mountains would try to build a huge fire and sit as close to it as they could, but a huge fire burns out fast and it only warms one side of you. The mountain men knew that a smaller fire with a good reflector wall was much better. It uses less wood and keeps the heat steady all night long. It is a clever bit of engineering, which is just a fancy word for a smart way of building things. You are using the logs to control the heat, making the forest work for you. You reach for a smaller log to help steady the wall. As you move it, You notice the way the wood has split. This brings us to your micro-history detail, the split log technique. Most people think you should use round logs for everything, but a mountain man knows that if you split a log down the middle, the flat, inside part of the wood catches the heat even better than the bar. The light-colored wood inside is dry and reflects the glow of the flames like a pale lamp. You place a couple of these split logs at the top of your wall, with the flat side facing your shelter. You can already imagine how they will glow once the fire is lit. The work is heavy. You have to lift the logs and settle them into place. They're cold, and the bark is rough against your gloves. You can feel the muscles in your back and shoulders working. It is a good feeling. It keeps the night shift moving. You make sure the wall is steady. You don't want it to tumble over onto your fire in the middle of the night. You step back and look at the setup. You have your lean-to on one side, your reflector wall on the other, and a clear space in the middle for the fire. It looks like a little outdoor hallway. This hallway will soon be the warmest place in the whole mountain range. You stop for a moment to catch your breath, moment of silence. The air is perfectly still. You look at the reflector wall you just built. In the moonlight, the logs look like silver bars. The shadows they cast are long and black. You can hear the distant crump of a snowdrift falling off a high rock ledge far up the mountain. It is a deep, low sound that you feel in your chest more than you hear in your ears. It reminds you of how much snow is up there, hanging over the world. But here in your little valley, under the protection of the big cedar, you are safe. You have built your walls, and you are ready to bring the light. You look at the ground where the fire will sit. You have cleared the snow here too. You don't want the fire to sink into a hole as the snow melts. You find some flat stones near the base of the cedar tree. You carry them over and lay them down to make a hearth. Hearth is just a floor for a fire. These stones will get hot and stay hot, helping to keep the fire burning evenly. They also stop the heat from melting the ground too much. You move the stones carefully, fitting them together like a puzzle. They are very cold, and they feel like blocks of solid ice, but soon they will be the heart of your home. You think about how the heat will move. It's a simple thing, really. The fire will create a big bubble of warmth. The back of your lean-to will stop the heat from leaving on one side, and the log wall will stop it on the other. You will be sitting right in the middle of that warm bubble. It is like being inside a giant oven, but a comfortable one. You have seen many men freeze because they were too lazy to build a reflector. They thought a blanket was enough. But you know better. You know that out here, you have to be smarter than the cold. You gather a few more branches to act as braces for your reflector wall. You lean them against the back of the log so the wall won't tip away from the fire. You are being very thorough. In the night shift, there is no room for good enough. Everything must be just right. You check the stakes one last time. They are deep in the earth. The wall is solid. It feels like a real piece of furniture, something strong and permanent. It is funny how a few logs and 2 sticks can make a place feel so much more like a house. You look at your hands. The resin from the balsam branches is starting to pick up bits of dirt and bark. Your gloves are getting a patina, which is a word for the way things look when they have been used a lot. They look dark and tough. You like the way they look. They are the tools of a man who works with the earth. You rub your hands together, and the leather makes a dry, sliding sound. You are ready. The house is built, the bed is made, and the reflector is standing guard. You look up at the sky. The stars are shifting. The Big Dipper has moved a little further around the North Star. You've been working for a long time, but you don't feel tired yet. The cold keeps you awake and sharp. You feel a sense of excitement. Lighting the fire is the best part of the night. It is the moment when the dark valley becomes your own private room. You are the watchman, and you have built the perfect stage for the fire. You think about the warmth that is coming. You can almost feel it on your face already. You think about how the orange light will dance on the green needles of your roof. You think about how the smoke will curl up into the cold night air, a thin grey ribbon reaching for the moon. It is a beautiful thought. You take a deep breath of the freezing air, and it doesn't feel quite so sharp anymore. You are prepared. You have followed the old rules. You have built the reflector, the mirror of the woods. You reach for your possibles bag. It is time to find the flint and the steel. It is time to make the first spark. You look at the reflector wall one last time, making sure it is perfectly lined up with your bed. It is. You have done a fine job. You are a mountain man, and you have mastered the secret of the deadly snows. You are not just surviving, you are living well. The night is half over, and the best part is about to begin. You are the watchman, and your fire is ready to be born. You stand between your new shelter and the reflector wall. The stage is set, but it is empty. A fire is like a living thing. It needs to eat. If you do not give it enough food, it will grow small and die while you are sleeping. And in the night shift of the mountains, a dead fire is a very dangerous thing. You need to gather enough wood to last for 10 hours or more. You cannot just pick up a few sticks and call it a day. You need a mountain of wood. You need logs as thick as your leg and as long as your arm. You need wood that will burn slow and steady, like a glowing heart. You pick up your belt axe and step out of the little circle of your camp. As you move away from the cedar tree, the moonlight feels even brighter. It is a cold, silver light that makes everything look like it is made of tin. You walk toward a group of tall, skinny trees. These are lodgepole pines. This is a historical fact. Mountain men and Native Americans loved these trees. They grow very straight and very tall, with very few branches near the bottom. They were perfect for making the poles of a teepee or the frame of a lean-to. But tonight, you love them because they are excellent fuel. You are looking for standing deadwood. These are trees that have died but are still standing up straight. Because they are not touching the snowy ground, the wood inside them is bone dry. If you pick up a log that is laying in the snow, it will be wet and rot heavy. It will hiss and pop and fill your shelter with thick, grey smoke. But standing deadwood burns hot and clean. You find a lodgepole pine that has no needles and no bark. It is a ghostly grey colour. You push it with your hand. It does not move. It is solid. This is the gold of the winter forest. You lift your axe and begin to chop at the base of the tree. Tock, tock, tock. The sound is very sharp. It sounds like a giant woodpecker is at work. You are not swinging with all your might. You are using a steady, easy pace. You want to keep your breathing slow. You want to stay warm, but you do not want to sweat. You watch the white chips of wood fly out from the cut. They look like little birds diving into the snow. The wood is so dry that it smells like old paper. It is good wood. It is sweet wood. After a few minutes of chopping, you hear a new sound. It is a tiny creak. You stop and look up. The top of the tree is moving slowly against the stars. You give the trunk one more firm push. The tree moans, then it snaps. Crack! It falls through the air, catching on the branches of other trees before it hits the snow with a deep woof sound. A big cloud of white powder rises up into the air, sparkling in the moonlight like diamond dust. You stand still for a moment, letting the forest become quiet again. Hammer of silence. You look toward the horizon. Far away, a mountain peak is glowing. The moon is hitting the glaciers at just the right angle, making the ice look like a blue jewel. It is so beautiful that it almost makes you forget how cold your toes are. The world is so vast, and you are so small. But you have your axe, and you have your wood. You are the master of your own little world. You feel a sense of strength. You are doing the work that needs to be done. You go to the fallen tree and begin to cut it into shorter logs. You want them to be about 3 feet long. This is the perfect size for your reflector fire. You use your axe to limb the tree, which means cutting off the small dead branches. You save these branches too. They are your kindling. In the world of fire, size matters. You need tiny twigs to catch the spark, medium sticks to grow the flame, and big logs to keep the heat going all night. You are like a chef preparing the ingredients for a great meal. As you work on a particularly thick part of the trunk, the wood proves to be very stubborn. It is full of knots. You reach into your possibles bag and pull out a small tool. It is a wooden wedge that you carved yourself from a piece of oak. This is your micro-history detail for this section. A wedge is a simple piece of wood that is wide at one end and very thin at the other. You place the thin edge into a small crack in the log and hit the top of the wedge with the back of your axe. Clack. The wedge acts like a giant tooth, forcing the wood to split apart. Without this simple bit of wood, you would waste all your energy trying to chop through the heavy log. You carry the logs back to your camp, 1 or 2 at a time. You hold them against your chest, and the cold bark feels rough against your buckskins. Each log is heavy. You can feel the weight in your arms and your legs. This is the labor of the night. You are building a bank account of heat. Every log you carry back is like a gold coin. The more you have, the richer you will be when the midnight cold arrives. You pile the logs neatly next to your reflector wall. You sort them by size. You put the big heavy all-nighters at the bottom of the pile. These are the logs that will burn for hours while you are deep in sleep. You look at the pile. It is getting high. It reaches up to your knee, but you know it is not enough. You go back into the dark woods to find another tree. You find a fallen birch tree. Birch is different from pine. Its bark is like thin white paper. You peel a few strips of this bark off. It feels oily and smooth. Birch bark is full of natural chemicals that catch fire very easily. Even if the bark is damp, you tuck the white curls of bark into your pocket. This will be your starter. It is the best thing in the woods for getting a fire going. You find more wood. You find some old, dry roots that have been pulled out of the ground by a storm. These roots are twisted and hard. They are like stones made of wood. They will burn very slowly and hold the heat for a long time. You drag them back to your camp, leaving a deep groove in the snow. You are feeling the tiredness now. Your breath is coming in short, white puffs. You stop to rub your hands together. The leather of your gloves is getting worn and dark from the wood and the resin. You think about the night shift workers in the world you left behind. You think about the men who work in the big iron furnaces or the sailors on the dark sea. They are all doing their jobs, just like you. Your job is to make sure this fire never goes out. You look at your lean-to. It looks so cozy and inviting with its green roof and its soft wool blanket. You can almost feel the warmth already. But you stay disciplined. You do not stop until the pile of wood is as tall as your waist. You take one last look around. You have enough tiny twigs to fill a bucket. You have enough medium sticks to fill a crate. And you have 20 big, heavy logs. This is a good pile. This is a mountain man's mountain. You feel a great sense of relief. The hard physical work is done. You have gathered the food for the fire. You have used your axe, your wedge, and your muscles to prepare for the long, cold hours ahead. You walk back to the center of your camp. You look at the reflector wall, the hearthstones, and the pile of wood. Everything is in its place. You are very organized. You have followed the rules of the night shift. You have not taken shortcuts. You have looked for the best wood, and you have prepared it well. You feel a sense of calm. The mountains are still cold, and the snow is still deep, but you are ready. You reach for the birch bark in your pocket. You look at the flint and steel in your bag. The time for work is ending, and the time for the light is beginning. You are the watchman, and your fuel is ready. You've done a fine job, and the forest has provided everything you need. You take a deep breath of the freezing air, and for the first time tonight, you feel a little bit of warmth in your soul. You are ready to light the night. The time has come to bring the light. You sit on the edge of your green bed, leaning forward toward the cold hearthstones. The world is very dark now, and the cold is a heavy weight on your shoulders. You reach into your possibles bag and pull out a small worn leather pouch. This is your fire kit. Inside this pouch are the most important things you own. You pull out a piece of char cloth. This is your micro-history detail for this moment. Char cloth is a small square of cotton cloth that has been burnt in a tin until it is black and crispy. It is not aflame yet, but it is very hungry for a spark. It will catch the tiniest bit of heat and hold it, glowing like a little red eye in the dark. You place the char cloth on top of a piece of grey flint. Flint is a very hard stone that feels smooth, like glass. In your other hand, you hold your steel. This is a piece of high-carbon iron shaped like a large ring that fits over your fingers. You hold the flint and the cloth steady near your pile of white birch bark and tiny pine twigs. You take a deep breath and steady your hands. You strike the steel against the sharp edge of the flint with a quick, downward motion. Clink, clink. Tiny yellow sparks fly into the air, but they vanish before they hit the cloth. You try again, focusing your mind on the task. A historical fact that shows how hard this life was is that a mountain man might have to do this 50 times a day in the winter. If your hands were frozen or the cloth was damp, it could take an hour just to get a single glow. There were no matches in the mountains in 1830. Matches were a new invention far away in the cities, and they were not reliable out here. Your flint and steel were your only hope. You strike again, harder this time. Clink. A bright, hot spark lands right in the center of the black cloth. You see a tiny, tiny spot of orange. It is the first bit of heat in the whole valley. You pick up the cloth and the tinder nest you made of dry grass and birch bark. You hold it in your cupped hands and blow on it very, very gently. You don't want to blow the spark out. You want to feed it air. You breathe a long, slow breath. Ho! The orange spot grows bigger. A thin wisp of blue smoke rises up and tickles your nose. It smells like burnt cotton and old summer. You blow again, a bit stronger. The smoke turns thick and white. Suddenly a bright yellow flame licks up through the grass. It is small and weak, but it is a flame. You quickly place it on the stones and pile the tiniest twigs on top of it. The fire is like a baby. You have to be very gentle with it at first. You watch the flames catch the thin pine needles. They make a tiny crackle pop sound. The light is small, only as bright as a candle, but it changes everything. You can see your own hands now. They are covered in the black dust from the char cloth and the sticky sap from the trees. You add some larger sticks, the ones as thin as a pencil. The fire grows. It starts to reach out and grab the wood. The orange light begins to dance on the reflector wall of logs in front of you. You stop and watch the light grow. Moment of silence. The shadows in the forest begin to jump and move. The big cedar tree behind you seems to step forward into the light. The white snow around your feet turns a warm golden color. You feel a tiny bit of warmth on your face. It is just a hint of heat, like the sun on a spring morning. The silence of the night is broken by the happy sound of the wood burning. Crackle. Snap. It is the most beautiful music you have ever heard. You are no longer alone in the dark. You have a companion now. You add the medium-sized branches. These are the ones that will build the coals. Coals are the glowing red pieces of wood that stay hot for a long time. You want a big bed of these coals to sit under your heavy logs. The fire is now as tall as your knee. It is strong and hungry. It gobbles up the dry pine branches. The smoke rises straight up in a thin grey line toward the stars. Because the wood is so dry, there is very little smoke to sting your eyes. It is a clean, bright fire. It is a watchman's fire. As the heat grows, you see the reflector wall start to do its job. The light-coloured wood of the split logs catches the glow and bounces it back toward you. You can feel the warmth hitting your chest and your knees. It is a wonderful feeling. It is like a warm hug after a long, cold day. You lean back into your green lean-to. The slanted roof catches the heat that rises up and pushes it back down onto your bed. You are sitting in a pocket of warmth. The temperature inside your shelter has already gone up many degrees. You take off your heavy gloves and hold your bare hands toward the flames. Your fingers feel stiff and sore, but the heat makes them feel better almost instantly. You think about how many times you've done this. Every night on the trail is the same, but it never gets old. The magic of making fire from a stone is something that never fails to amaze you. It makes you feel powerful but also very thankful. You know that without this fire, you would be just another frozen thing in the woods. But with it, you are the king of this little valley. You are the night shift worker who has brought the sun down to earth for a few hours. You look at the flint and steel again before you tuck them back into the leather pouch. The steel is scratched and worn. The flint has many small chips missing from its edges. These are the marks of a long winter. These tools have been with you through many storms and many lonely nights. You treat them with great respect. You make sure the pouch is closed tight so no snow can get inside. You place it in the very bottom of your possibles bag, where it will stay dry and safe. The fire is now ready for the big logs. You pick up one of the heavy all-nighters you gathered earlier. It is thick and solid. You place it carefully on top of the glowing coals. The fire hisses for a second as it touches the cold bar, and it begins to wrap its orange fingers around the wood. You add a second log next to it. These two logs will be the foundation of your heat for the next few hours. They will burn slowly, turning into more red coals that will keep the reflector wall warm. You are building a battery of heat. You look out past the fire. The forest beyond the light looks even darker now. The tall trees are like black ghosts standing at the edge of your camp. You can see the moonlight hitting the snow further away, but here, in your little circle, everything is orange and gold. You feel like you are inside a small, glowing room. The walls are made of green needles and brown logs, and the floor is made of soft wool and balsam. It is the best home you could ask for. You feel a deep sense of peace. You notice that your boots are starting to steam. The heat from the fire is melting the frost that was stuck to the leather. This is good, but you have to be careful. If you put your feet too close to the fire, the leather will get too hot and start to shrink or crack. You move your feet back a little bit. You want them to dry slowly and gently. You watch the tiny puffs of steam rise from your toes. It is a sign that the night shift is moving into the cozy phase. The hard work of the evening is finally done. You take a deep breath. The air inside your shelter smells like wood smoke and pine. It is a heavy, sleepy smell. You feel your muscles starting to relax. The tension in your shoulders from carrying the heavy pack is fading away. You look at the flames dancing and jumping. They are never still. They are always changing shape. You could watch them for hours. They're like a story that never ends. You feel your eyes getting a little bit heavy, but you stay awake. You still have to eat, and you still have to check your gear. You are the watchman, and your fire is bright. You have turned the cold blue mountain night into a warm orange sanctuary. You have used your skills and your tools to overcome the deadly snows. You feel a sense of pride in your work. You have built the house, made the bed, and lit the fire. You are ready for the long hours of the night. You are safe, you are warm, and you are exactly where you are supposed to be. The fire is roaring now, and the heat is pushing back the frozen breath of the mountains. You sit back on your bed of balsam and feel the hunger in your stomach. It is a deep, hollow feeling that comes from a long day of walking and working in the cold. You reach for your pack and pull out a small cloth bag. Inside is your dinner, a heavy slab of salt pork. This is your micro-history detail for the meal. Salt pork is pig meat that has been packed in big barrels of salt. The salt keeps it from rotting, even when you carry it in your pack for weeks. It is very salty and very fatty, which is exactly what a mountain man needs to keep his internal furnace burning. You take out your Green River knife and cut a thick slice of the meat. The fat is white and hard like wax because of the cold. You find a long, clean stick of green willow wood and sharpen the end. You slide the meat onto the stick. You hold it over the edge of the fire, not right in the flames, but close enough to the glowing coals. You hear it start to sizzle almost immediately. Spot! The white fat begins to turn clear, and the edges of the meat start to brown and curl. The smell is wonderful. It is a rich, smoky scent that makes your mouth water. In the quiet of the high valley, this simple smell feels like the greatest feast on earth. A historical fact about mountain man food is that they often went for months without tasting bread or vegetables. Their diet was almost entirely meat buffalo, elk, deer, or beaver. This was not always healthy, but it gave them the massive amount of energy they needed to fight the winter. When you eat meat like this, your body has to work hard to digest the fat, and that work actually creates heat inside you. You are eating to stay alive, but you are also eating to stay warm. You watch a drop of hot fat fall from the meat and hit a glowing coal. It flares up with a tiny whoosh of blue flame. You wait patiently for the meat to cook. You turn the stick slowly so the pork browns evenly on all sides. You are in no hurry. The night shift is long, and this is your time to reflect. Moment of silence. You look at the way the firelight plays on the snow just outside your lean-to. The snow looks like it is covered in orange jewels. Further out, where the light cannot reach, the world is a deep, velvet black. You can see the dark shapes of the trees, but they have no detail. They are just shadows. You feel like you are sitting in a golden bubble. Everything inside the bubble is warm, bright, and safe. Everything outside is cold, dark, and wild. You feel a deep sense of gratitude for the fire. It is your best friend tonight. The salt pork is finally done. The outside is crispy and dark, and the fat is dripping. You don't have a plate or a fork. You use your knife to cut small pieces of the hot meat and pop them into your mouth. The salt is very strong, but it tastes good. You chew slowly, enjoying the warmth of the food. You can feel the energy spreading through your body. It starts in your stomach and moves out to your tired arms and your cold toes. It is like pouring oil into a lamp. Your light is getting brighter. You think about the texture of the meat. It is tough and chewy, but it is honest food. You wash it down with a handful of clean snow that you have melted in a small tin cup near the fire. The water is ice cold and tastes of nothing but the mountain. You feel a sense of satisfaction. You have done the hard work, and now you are reaping the reward. You are the watchman, and you have fed the guard. You look at the fire and add another log. You want to make sure the coals stay hot while you finish your meal. As you eat, you look at your surroundings. The green needles of your roof are starting to dry out a little from the heat. They give off a soft, spicy scent that mixes with the smell of the roasting pork. The log reflector wall is glowing a dull red where the heat hits it most directly. Everything is working just as it should. You feel like a part of a long tradition of humans sitting by fires. Thousands of years ago, people were doing exactly what you are doing now. They were sitting in shelters, cooking meat, and watching the dark. You wipe your knife on your leather trousers and put it back in its sheath. You feel full and content. The heaviness in your limbs is no longer a tired ache. It is a sleepy, relaxed feeling. You lean back and watch the sparks fly up from the fire. They look like tiny stars trying to join their brothers in the sky. You are the watchman of the night, and your belly is full. You have survived another day, and you have prepared well for the night. The night shift is moving along, and the mountain is quiet. The salt meat has warmed your belly, but your throat feels dry from the cold mountain air. You need something hot to drink before you settle down for the night. You reach into your pack and pull out your small tin cup. It is a simple thing, made of thin metal with a wire handle. It is black on the outside from being held over 100 different fires. This cup is your most used tool after your knife and axe. You fill the cup with clean white snow from a drift just outside your shelter. You do not just scoop it up. You look for the fluffiest, whitest snow that has not been touched by the wind. You pack it down tight with your thumb until the cup is full of icy powder. You set the cup on a flat rock right at the edge of the fire. You do not put it in the middle of the flames because the snow might burn the bottom of the tin before it melts. You watch as the heat starts to work. The white snow begins to shrink and turn clear. It turns into a little pool of water at the bottom of the cup. You have to add more snow and then more, because a whole cup of snow only makes a little bit of water. This is a historical fact that every traveler knows. You need a lot of snow to make a decent drink. It takes time and patience, but time is something you have plenty of during the night shift. While the water begins to simmer, you look around for the ingredients for your tea. You are going to make pine needle tea. This is your microhistory detail for this section. Mountain men and the Native Americans they lived with knew that pine needles were full of things that kept you healthy. Back in the big cities, people sometimes got sick because they did not eat enough fresh fruit. Out here, there are no oranges or lemons, but the green needles of the white pine or the hemlock tree are full of vitamin C. It tastes a bit like the forest, and it helps keep your body strong against the winter. You reach up and pluck a small handful of bright green needles from a low-hanging branch of a nearby tree. You use your fingers to snap the needles into small pieces. This helps the flavor and the goodness come out into the water. You drop the green bits into the tin cup. The water is starting to blow tiny bubbles now. It makes a soft hissing sound. You watch the needles dance around in the hot water. The water starts to turn a very pale shade of yellow, almost like the color of the morning sun. A new smell fills your lean-to. It is sharp and clean, like the smell of the air after a big rain. It is a very refreshing scent that cuts through the heavy smell of the salt pork and the wood smoke. You use a small stick to stir the tea. You feel the heat coming off the cup. Moment of silence. The only sound in the world is the tiny bloop, bloop of the boiling water. You look up at the stars through the gap between your roof and the reflector wall. The stars look so close, you feel like you could reach out and grab a handful of them. They are steady and bright. The silence of the mountain is so deep that it feels like it has a weight to it. It is a peaceful weight. It makes you feel like you are the only person awake in the whole universe. You are the watchman of this quiet, frozen kingdom. The tea is ready. You use the edge of your thick leather coat to grab the hot wire handle of the cup. You have to be careful not to spill a drop. You bring the cup close to your face. The steam rises up and warms your nose and your cheeks. It feels wonderful. You take a small sip. It is very hot. It tastes like the woods, a bit bitter, a bit sweet, and very fresh. You can feel the heat of the liquid move down your throat and spread into your chest. It is like a small fire is starting inside you. This is the best way to end the day's work. It calms your mind and prepares your body for sleep. You sit there for a long time, holding the warm tin between your hands. The heat from the metal seeps into your palms. You think about the night shift and how different it is from the day. During the day you are busy. You are walking, trapping, and watching for danger. But at night, you are a different kind of watchman. You are watching the fire. You are watching the shadows. You are watching your own thoughts. The firelight makes everything look soft and kind. Even the jagged rocks of the mountain look a bit more friendly in the orange glow. You finish the tea and look at the green needles at the bottom of the cup. You don't throw them away. You tip them into the fire. They make a bright, quick flare and a series of tiny cracks as they burn. You wipe the inside of your cup with a bit of dry moss and put it back in your pack. You feel a sense of completion. You have built your home. You have made your bed. You have fed your hunger. And you have quenched your thirst. You have done everything a man can do to be comfortable in a place that is made of ice and stone. You look at the fire. The big logs are glowing a deep, beautiful red. The reflector wall is pushing a steady wave of heat into your shelter. You move a bit closer to the back of the lean-to, sinking into the soft balsam branches. You pull your Hudson's Bay blanket up around your shoulders. The wool is heavy and warm. You feel like a bear in a den. The world outside is freezing. The wind is starting to pick up a little bit, making the tops of the pine trees moan. But inside your little green room, it is still and warm. You think about the night shift workers in the towns again. Maybe a night watchman is walking down a cobblestone street in London right now, carrying a lantern and a heavy stick. He is looking for trouble, and he is looking for the morning. You are doing the same thing here, thousands of miles away. You are guarding your life and your warmth. You are waiting for the sun to return to the high peaks. You feel a connection to every person who has ever stayed awake while the rest of the world slept. The warmth of the tea is still in your belly. Your muscles feel loose and heavy. You look at the orange flames. They are getting smaller now, settling down into a steady, hot glow. This is the sleeping fire. It doesn't need to be big and wild. It just needs to be constant. You reach out and nudge one of the logs with a stick to make sure it is sitting right in the coals. A few spots fly up, but they stay far away from your bed. Everything is safe. Everything is in order. You feel a deep sense of pride. You are a mountain man, a free trapper, and you have mastered the winter. You are not afraid of the deadly snows, because you know how to live with them. You know the secrets of the pine needle and the tin cup. You know how to turn a handful of snow into a hot, healthy drink. You are the watchman, and your watch is going well. You close your eyes for just a second, listening to the forest. The mountain is your home, and tonight your home is warm. The warmth of the tea has settled deep in your bones, and your belly is full. But the night shift is not just about resting. It is about being ready for the next day. You sit up a little and pull your feet toward the edge of the fire. You need to look after your gear. In the mountains, your gear is your life. If your boots fall apart or your bag rips, you are in big trouble. You reach down and pull off your heavy leather boots. They are wet from the deep snow. You look at the leather. It is dark and soft from the moisture. You must dry them, but you must do it slowly. If you put them too close to the flames, the leather will shrink and become hard like a rock. You place them on a flat stone just far enough away that the heat feels like a warm summer day. You look at your socks. They are made of thick grey wool. Wool is a miracle out here. Even when it gets a little bit damp from the sweat of your feet, it still keeps you warm. You pull them off and hang them on a small stick you have pushed into the ground near the hearth. You can see the steam rising from the wool. It is a slow white mist that disappears into the shadows of the lean-to. You rub your bare feet with your hands. Your toes are white and cold, but the heat from the fire starts to turn them pink again. It feels like 1,000 tiny needles are pricking your skin. This is the blood coming back. It is a good feeling, even if it hurts just a little bit. A historical fact about mountain men is that they spent a lot of time mending. Mending is just a word for fixing things. Because there were no shops, you had to be your own tailor and your own cobbler. A cobbler is a person who fixes shoes. You reach into your possibles bag and find a small tin of dubbin. This is your micro-history detail for this part of the night. Dubbin is a thick grease made from animal fats and beeswax. It smells a bit like an old candle. You take a little bit of the grease on your finger and rub it into the leather of your boots. The grease fills the tiny holes in the skin and makes the boots waterproof. It also keeps the leather soft so it does not crack in the freezing air. You work the grease into the seams of the boots. You are very careful to get it into every corner. You use your thumb to push it deep into the stitches. As the heat from the fire warms the boot, the grease melts and disappears into the leather. The boot starts to shine in the orange light. It looks healthy and strong again. You do the same for the second boot. This is a slow, quiet job. It is part of the rhythm of the night. You are taking care of the things that take care of you. You feel a sense of pride in your tools. They are worn and scratched, but they are yours, and they are in good shape. Moment of silence. You stop for a minute and listen to the forest. You can hear a soft thump from outside. It is a big clump of snow falling from a branch. Then, everything is quiet again. The fire makes a small pop, and a tiny spark jumps onto the dirt floor. You watch it fade from orange to black. You look at your heavy rifle leaning against the cedar tree. The wooden stock is dark and polished. You pick it up and wipe a soft cloth over the metal barrel. You want to make sure there is no moisture on it. If water stays on the metal, it will turn into rust. Rust is the enemy of the hunter. You want your rifle to be ready if you see an elk or a deer in the morning light. You check your possibles bag again. You make sure your extra lead balls are there and that your gunpowder is dry. You keep your gunpowder in a powder horn. This is a hollow horn from an ox. It has a wooden plug at the end to keep the water out. You shake it gently, and you can hear the grains of powder rattling inside. It sounds like dry sand. This is a good sound. It means your thunder is ready for tomorrow. You tuck the horn back under your buffalo robe to keep it warm and safe. Everything must be in its place so you can find it in the dark if you have to. You look at the fringe on your buckskin sleeves. Some of the leather strings are tangled. You use your fingers to straighten them out. You notice a small hole in your glove. You will have to fix that tomorrow with your needle and thread. For now, you just tuck the glove inside your coat. You feel the weight of the night pressing down on the roof of your lean-to. The wind is whispering through the pine needles, but it cannot get inside. You have built a good fortress. You feel very small in the middle of the big mountains, but you feel like you belong here. You are not fighting the world, you are part of it. Your socks are dry now. They feel warm and fuzzy. When you pull them back on, your feet feel much better. You slide your feet into your boots, but you do not tie the laces yet. You want your feet to be able to breathe while you rest. You look at the fire. The big logs have burned down a little bit. They are covered in a layer of white ash, but underneath, they are glowing with a deep, fierce red. This is the best kind of fire. It is steady and calm. It does not jump around or smoke. It just gives off a beautiful, constant heat. You lean back against the cedar tree. The bark is hard, but you have placed a small bundle of dry moss behind your head to make a pillow. It is not as soft as a feather pillow in a hotel, but it feels wonderful to you. You look out at the reflector wall. It is doing its job perfectly. The heat is bouncing off the logs and hitting you right in the chest. You feel like you are being wrapped in a warm blanket of air. Your eyes are starting to feel heavy. The night shift is moving into the quiet hours when the mind begins to wander. You think about the path you will take tomorrow. You will follow the frozen stream up toward the high pass. You hope to find some beaver ponds there. You think about the ice on the water and how you will have to break it with your axe. It will be hard work, but you are ready for it. You have the strength of the salt pork and the pine tea in you. You have the warmth of the fire in your bones. You are a mountain man, and this is what you were born to do. You are the watchman of your own life. You reach out and add one more medium log to the fire. You do it quietly, trying not to disturb the peace of the forest. The new log catches quickly and the flames grow a little bit taller. The orange light dances on the green balsam roof above you. It is a beautiful sight. You feel a sense of deep calm. The world is cold and the snow is deep, but you are safe and warm in your little nest. You have done your work well. You have looked after your gear and your fire. Now, it is time for the watchman to rest his eyes for a little while. The fire is a steady, blowing heart in the darkness, and your gear is as ready as it can be. Now, it is time to bring out the most important piece of bedding a mountain man can own. You reach into the very bottom of your pack and pull out a large, heavy bundle wrapped in leather straps. As you undo the ties, the bundle unrolls with a thick, heavy sound. This is your buffalo robe. It is not just a blanket. It is a piece of history and the ultimate shield against the deadly snows. This robe was taken from a great bull buffalo on the flat plains, far to the east. It is nearly 6 feet long and 5 feet wide, and it is very, very heavy. A historical fact that shows how much these were valued is that a good buffalo robe could be traded for several fine beaver skins or even a small horse. To the mountain man, the buffalo robe was his bed, his coat, and his life insurance. Without one, the high mountains in winter were almost impossible to survive. You shake the robe out, and a few stray hairs drift into the firelight. The skin side is soft and tanned, until it is the color of a pale autumn leaf. The other side is covered in a thick, curly carpet of dark brown fur. This fur is so dense that the wind cannot blow through it, and snow simply sits on top without ever soaking in. Your micro-history detail for this section is the way the robe is cured. To make the leather soft enough to wrap around your body, it had to be rubbed with the brains and fats of the animal itself. This is an old way of making leather. that makes it feel almost like heavy velvet. You run your hand over the fur side. It feels oily and rich. That natural oil is what keeps the robe from getting stiff in the freezing cold. You lay the robe down on top of your Hudson's Bay blanket, fur side up for a moment, just to see how it looks. It fills the entire floor of your lean-to, making your green nest look like the den of a great beast. You move slowly as you prepare to get inside. You don't want to disturb the peace of the camp. Moment of silence. You look at the way the firelight catches the tips of the buffalo hair. Each little curl of fur has a tiny orange glow. The rest of the robe is in deep shadow. You can hear the distant, lonely shooting of an owl from the dark trees. It is a soft, hollow sound that makes the valley feel even larger and more silent. You feel like the only warm thing for 100 miles. You are tucked away in your little pocket of safety, and the buffalo robe is the final wall you are building between yourself and the winter night. You decide to turn the robe over. You have learned that the best way to stay warm is to have the fur side touching your body. The fur traps the heat from your skin in the millions of tiny spaces between the hairs. If you put the leather side against you, it feels cold at first, but the fur is warm the moment you touch it. You sit down on the edge of your bed and slide your legs under the heavy weight of the robe. It feels like a warm, furry mountain is being lowered onto you. The weight is comforting. It holds you down and makes you feel secure. You pull the top of the robe up to your chin. The fur is soft against your neck and cheeks. It has a faint, earthy smell, a mix of old grass, wood smoke, and the wild animal it once was. This smell is not bad. To a mountain man, it is the smell of home. You feel the heat from the fire hitting the leather side of the robe, which is now facing out. The leather catches that heat and holds it, while the fur inside keeps your own body heat from escaping. You are now inside a thermal sandwich. The fire is on the outside, you are on the inside, and the buffalo is protecting both. You look out from the edge of your fur cocoon. The reflector wall is glowing, and the fire is pulsing with a slow red rhythm. You feel the tension leave your toes and your ankles. You feel the muscles in your legs go soft. You are finally, truly warm. Even though the air just a few feet away is cold enough to freeze water in seconds, you feel like you are sitting in a warm room by a stove. You pull your arms inside the robe, tucking your hands into your chest. You are a ball of warmth in a world of ice. You think about the night shift and how it changes when you are under the furs. Your job now is just to be still. You listen to the sounds of your own breathing. It is slow and steady. You are the watchman. But for now, you are watching with your ears. You listen for the snap of a twig or the change in the wind. But mostly, you just listen to the quiet. It is a beautiful, heavy quiet that makes your thoughts move slowly. You think about the buffalo that gave you this robe, and you feel a sense of thanks. You are part of the circle of life out here. Your eyes start to drift shut. The orange glow of the fire is still visible through your eyelids, a soft and fuzzy light. You feel the spring of the balsam branches underneath you, and the scratchy warmth of the wool blanket, and the heavy, soft pressure of the buffalo fur. It is the most perfect bed in the world. You are no longer a man fighting the mountains. You are a man resting in their arms. The night shift is moving into its deepest hour, and you are ready for the dreams that come with the cold. You take one last deep breath of the pine-scented air. It feels cool on your nose, but the rest of you is toasty. You are the watchman, and your bed is the finest in the land. You have used the gifts of the plains and the tools of the mountains to make a place of peace. You let your head sink back into the bundle of moss. You are safe. You are warm. The buffalo robe is your shield, and the fire is your light. You are ready to drift away, knowing that you have done everything right. You are now tucked deep inside your buffalo robe. The fur is thick and soft against your skin. You have made a very important choice tonight. You have wrapped yourself with the fur side facing in. To someone who has never lived in the mountains, this might seem backwards. They might think the pretty fur should be on the outside for the world to see. But the mountain man knows better. This is a historical fact of the night shift. When the fur is against your body, it traps the warmth that your own skin makes. Each tiny hair acts like a little wall, holding a bit of warm air close to you. If the fur were on the outside, the cold wind would blow that warmth away. By turning it in, you have made a private room that is always the perfect temperature. As you lie there, you feel the weight of the robe. It is very heavy, like a big, friendly hand, pressing you down into your bed of balsam. This weight is good. It keeps the blankets from moving around while you sleep. You reach out a hand and touch the leather side of the robe, which is now facing the fire. The leather is warm to the touch. It has been catching the heat from the reflector fire all evening. It feels like a hot stone that has been wrapped in velvet. You pull your hand back inside and snuggle down. You are now a part of the fur trade in a very real way. You are not just selling the furs. You are living inside them. Your micro-history detail for this moment is the trapper's tuck. This is a special way you move your feet to stay warm. You do not just lie with your feet straight out. You fold the bottom of the buffalo robe under your feet, making a little pocket. Then you tuck the sides of the robe under your legs. This seals the bottom so no cold air can crawl in from the opening of the lean-to. It is like being inside a sleeping bag made of natural materials. Once you are tucked in, you don't want to move. You want to stay in your little cocoon of heat. Moment of silence. You look out at the fire from the small gap at the top of your robe. The flames are lower now, but the logs are glowing a very deep red. The heat is steady. You can hear the tiny tick sound of the leather on your boots cooling down on the hearthstone. You can hear the wind hushing through the cedar tree above you. But inside your robe, it is silent. You can only hear the sound of your own heart and the soft woof of your breath. You feel very safe. The deadly snows are outside, but they cannot find you here. You have used the wisdom of the animals to stay alive. You think about the buffalo that once wore this skin. It was a giant of the plains, strong and brave. You feel a sense of honor to be using its coat. Out here, nothing is wasted. The animal gives you food, and then it gives you its warmth. You feel like you are part of a very old story. You are not a stranger in the mountains. You are a neighbor to the trees and the beasts. You are the watchman, and you are resting in the heart of the wilderness. You notice that your breath is making a little bit of frost on the very edge of the fur where it touches your mouth. The air you breathe out is warm and wet, and as soon as it hits the freezing air, it turns into tiny white crystals. This is okay. The buffalo fur is oily enough that the frost will just brush off in the morning. You don't mind a little bit of cold on your nose. It reminds you that you are still awake and still part of the night shift. The cold on your face makes the warmth of your body feel even better. It is a game of contrasts, the ice and the fire, the white snow and the brown fur. You let your muscles go completely limp. You feel the springy pine branches under your back. They have flattened out a little bit under your weight, but they are still much softer than the frozen ground. You can smell the scent of the crushed needles mixing with the earthy smell of the robe. It is a very natural, comforting smell. It makes you think of the deep sleep of a bear in a cave. You are not just a man in the woods anymore. You have become a creature of the forest for the night. The light from the fire is dimming, but the reflector wall is still doing its job. You can feel a gentle wave of heat washing over your face every few seconds. It is like a warm breeze in the middle of a winter storm. You think about how lucky you are to have the tools and the knowledge to build this place. You have a roof, a bed, a fire, and a robe. You have everything you need. The night shift is a lonely job, but it is a good one. You are guarding your own life, and you are doing it with skill and pride. You feel a sense of peace washing over you. The worries of the day are gone. You are not thinking about the miles you walked or the beaver you didn't catch. You are only thinking about the warmth and the quiet. Your eyes are very heavy now. The orange glow of the fire is just a soft blur. You let out a long, slow sigh. You are ready to dream. You know that if you wake up cold, you only have to reach out and toss another log on the fire. But for now, you are perfect. The watchman is settling in. The mountain is tall, the snow is deep, and the stars are bright. But inside the buffalo robe, the world is small, dark, and toasty. You have wrapped the fur side in, and you have locked the winter out. You are the master of your own little world. You close your eyes and let the warmth take you away. You are safe. You are warm. The watch continues in your dreams. You lie there, tucked inside your buffalo robe, and look out through the open front of your shelter. Because you are lying low on the ground, the roof of the lean-to acts like a frame for the sky. The fire has settled into a low red glow, so it does not hide the light of the stars. In the city, the smoke and the lamps make the sky look grey or black. But here, the air is as clear as a piece of glass. The stars are not just tiny dots, they look like huge glowing jewels. They are so bright that they cast a soft, silver light onto the peaks of the mountains. You can see the jagged edges of the rocks reaching up, trying to touch the stars. A historical fact that you often think about is how mountain men use the stars as their map. There were no paper maps for this part of the world in 1830. If you wanted to go north, you look for the North Star. It sits very still while the rest of the stars slowly turn around it. You find it now, a steady point of light above a high, snowy ridge. As long as you can see that star, you are never truly lost. It is like a silent friend watching over you, making sure you know your way home. You watch it for a long time, feeling the vastness of the universe above your little greenhouse. Your micro-history detail for the sky is the mountain man's clock. You don't have a pocket watch made of gold and gears. Instead, you look at the Big Dipper. This group of stars looks like a giant ladle or a big cup with a long handle. As the night moves forward, the Big Dipper turns around the North Star like the hand on a clock. You can tell if it is midnight or 3 in the morning just by looking at the position of that giant cup. Right now it is leaning to one side, telling you that the first half of the night shift is almost done. Moment of silence. The silence is so deep, it feels like you can hear the stars twinkling. It is a tiny, crystalline sound in your mind. The air is perfectly still, and the smoke from your fire rises in a straight, thin line. You feel a sense of wonder. Back in the towns, people are sleeping under wooden roofs and behind brick walls. They cannot see this. They do not know how big the world really is. You feel lucky to be out here, even if it is freezing. You have a front row seat to the greatest show on earth. You notice a shooting star. It is a bright streak of light that zips across the purple sky and vanishes behind a dark mountain. It happens so fast that you wonder if you really saw it. It makes you think about how quickly time passes. You are only here for a short time, just like that flash of light. It makes you want to enjoy every second of the warmth and the peace. You pull the buffalo robe a little tighter around your shoulders. The fur is warm and the stars are bright, and you are exactly where you want to be. The Milky Way is very thick tonight. It looks like a long white cloud of dust or a river of milk spilled across the ceiling of the world. The Native Americans have many beautiful stories about this river in the sky. To you, it is just a sign of how clean and high the air is. You feel like you are breathing in the stars with every breath of cold air. Your lungs feel crisp and fresh. You feel more awake and alive than you ever did back in the crowded streets of the East. You think about the mountains. They are very old. They were here long before the first trapper arrived, and they will be here long after you are gone. They are like giant, sleeping kings. The snow on their tops is their white hair. The trees on their sides are their green clothes. You feel a deep respect for them. They allow you to stay here, but you must follow their rules. You must build your reflector fire, and you must wrap yourself in your furs. If you are humble and careful, the mountains will be kind to you. You see a planet, perhaps Mars or Jupiter. It does not twinkle like the stars. It glows with a steady yellow light. It looks like a lantern hanging in the sky. You wonder if there is anyone else looking at that same light tonight. Maybe a sailor on a ship in the middle of the ocean is looking at it too. You feel a connection to the whole world. Even though you are alone in a snowy valley, you are part of something very big. The night shift is a global job. Everyone who stays awake under the stars is part of the same team. The fire gives a small crack and a few sparks fly up. They look like tiny red stars trying to reach the big white ones. You watch them until they go out and turn into grey ash. You feel your eyelids getting heavy again. The stars are starting to blur together into a soft, blowing blanket. You are the watchman, and your sky is clear. You have used the stars to tell the time and find your way. You have seen the beauty of the frozen peaks in the moonlight. You let out a long, slow breath. The white cloud of your breath rises up and joins the night air. You feel a sense of perfect calm. The world is huge and silent, and you are small and warm. You are ready for the deep sleep of the mountains. You know the North Star is still there, and the Big Dipper is still turning. The universe is in order, and your camp is safe. You close your eyes, carrying the image of the bright jeweled sky into your dreams. You are drifting on the edge of sleep when a sound pulls you back. It is not a loud sound, but in the perfect quiet of the mountains, every noise has a meaning. You lie very still inside your buffalo robe, listening with your whole body. The night shift in the forest has its own language. You hear a sharp crack from the woods. It is the sound of a tree branch snapping under the weight of the snow. Then there is a low moaning sound. It is the wind moving through the frozen needles of the tall pines. It sounds like a giant taking a long, slow breath. These are the normal sounds of the winter, and they tell you that the world is still alive, even in the deep freeze. A historical fact about the night shift is that the air gets so cold it changes how sound travels. In the freezing mountains, the air is very dense and heavy. This makes sounds travel much further than they do in the summer. You might hear a wolf howling 3 miles away, but it sounds like it is right behind your lean-to. You might hear the ice on a distant lake popping and cracking, and it sounds like a drum beating in the night. The mountain man learns to tell the difference between a sound that is close and a sound that is just carrying through the cold air. You listen to the voice of the valley, and you feel safe because you understand what it is saying. Your microhistory detail for the sounds of the night is the ice ping. As the temperature drops toward midnight, the moisture inside the rocks begins to freeze and expand. This creates a tiny high-pitched ping sound, almost like a hammer hitting a piece of crystal. You hear it now, coming from the rocky ledge above you. Ping. Tip. It is the sound of the mountain itself tightening its grip in the cold. It is a reminder that the world is changing every minute, even while you are trying to rest. Moment of silence. You stay perfectly still. You hear the soft hush of a small amount of snow sliding off your lean-to roof. It hits the ground with a tiny thump. You feel a sense of peace. These sounds are not threats. They are the music of your home. You know that if a large animal like a bear or a mountain lion were moving, the sound would be different. You would hear the heavy crunch of paws in the crusty snow. You would hear the snapping of larger twigs. But tonight, there is only the wind and the ice. You are the watchman, and your ears are doing their job. You think about the deadly snows and how they swallow up all the small noises. When the snow is falling, it acts like a thick blanket of cotton. It catches the sound and stops it from moving. But tonight, the sky is clear, and the snow is frozen hard. This makes the world like a giant bell. Every little movement makes a sound. You hear a mouse or a vole scurrying under the snow near the cedar tree. You can hear the tiny scratch of its little claws against the bark. It is looking for seeds or a warm place to hide. You feel a connection to that little creature. You are both just trying to stay warm until the sun comes up. The fire makes a soft whoosh as a log settles down into the bed of red coals. A few sparks fly up and make a tiny crackle in the air. This is the most comforting sound of all. It tells you that your heater is still working. The reflector wall catches the sound of the fire and bounces it back to you just like it bounces the heat. You feel like you are surrounded by the gentle breathing of the flames. It is a rhythmic, soothing sound that helps your mind slow down. You notice that the wind is changing its tune. Instead of a low moan, it is starting to make a whistling sound as it passes through the gaps in the rock. This means the wind is getting stronger or moving faster. You pull the edge of the buffalo robe over your ear to block out the whistle. The fur is thick and muffles the world, making everything sound soft and distant. You are inside your own private world of fur and wool. The sounds of the forest can reach you, but they cannot bother you. You think about the people in the towns again. They hear the sound of carriage wheels on stone, the shouting of people, and the ringing of church bells. To you, those sounds feel loud and harsh. You prefer the quiet sounds of the mountain. You like the way the snow sounds when it freezes. You like the way the trees talk to each other in the wind. You have learned to find the music in the silence. It is a secret that only the people of the night shift truly know. Your eyes start to close again. The ping of the ice and the hush of the wind become a part of your dreams. You are no longer just listening to the sounds. You are floating on them. You feel the heavy weight of the robe and the soft spring of the balsam. The mountain is singing you a lullaby, and it is a song of ice and stars. You are the watchman, and your world is full of familiar voices. You know you are safe because the forest is telling you so. You let out one last long breath. You don't even hear it because you are already starting to drift away. The sounds of the frozen night forest continue, but you are tucked away in the silence of sleep. The night shift moves forward, and the valley stays quiet under the watchful eye of the moon. You have done your work, and now the music of the mountains will watch over you. You wake up slowly. The air on your nose is very sharp and cold. It is that time of the night when the world is at its coldest. You do not want to move. The buffalo robe is so warm and the fur is so soft against your skin. But you are the watchman, and you know the night shift rules. You can feel that the heat on your face is getting a little bit weaker. This means the fire is hungry again. If you stay under the blankets and go back to sleep now, the fire will turn into grey ash by morning. You have to be strong. You have to move your arms out of the warm fur and into the freezing air for just a minute. You push one arm out. The cold hits your skin like a splash of ice water. You reach out and find a long, dry stick you left near the edge of your bed. You use this stick to poke the logs in the fire. You don't even have to get up. This is why you built your camp so carefully. Everything is within reach. As you nudge the logs, a cloud of bright orange sparks flies up. They look like tiny fireflies dancing in the dark. You see the deep red glow of the coals underneath. The fire is not dead, it is just resting. It just needs a little bit of new food to wake it up. A historical fact about the mountain man's fire is that they called this banking the fire. In the old days, people didn't have matches to start over, so they had to keep the same fire alive for days or even weeks. You are doing the same thing. You are keeping the seed of the fire alive. You reach for one of the big, heavy logs you stacked by the reflector wall. It is cold and heavy, but you slide it onto the red coals. You hear a soft hiss and then a happy crackle. The new wood is starting to catch. You feel a sense of relief. The heat will soon be strong again. Your microhistory detail for this part of the night is the fire poker. You didn't buy a metal one from a shop. You made yours from a piece of ironwood or mountain mahogany. This wood is so heavy and dense that it does not burn easily. It is almost as hard as a piece of iron. You use the charred pointed end of this stick to move the logs exactly where you want them. You push the big log right up against the reflector wall, so the heat has nowhere to go but toward you. You are a master of the flames, even when you are half asleep. Moment of silence. You lie back down and pull the buffalo robe up to your chin. You watch the fire through the small gap in the fur. The new log is starting to glow at the edges. A small blue flame licks the side of the bark. You feel the warmth starting to grow again. It hits your forehead and your cheeks. It feels like the first warm day of spring. The night shift can be hard when you have to wake up, but the feeling of getting back into a warm bed is one of the best feelings in the world. You feel very cozy and very lucky. You listen to the fire. It makes a rhythmic clicking sound as the heat moves through the wood. It sounds like a tiny clock ticking away the hours of the night. You look at the reflector wall. The logs of the wall have become very dark from the smoke and the heat, but they are still standing strong. They are your silent partners. They stay awake all night to make sure you stay warm. You feel a strange kind of friendship with the things you have built. The lean-to, the wall, and the fire are all working together to keep you safe from the deadly snows. You notice that the stars have shifted again. The Big Dipper has turned even further. The night is moving along, and you are moving with it. You are not fighting the time, you are just flowing with it. You feel very calm. Your breathing is slow and deep. You can see the white puff of your breath in the firelight, but it doesn't look cold anymore. It looks like a little bit of magic coming out of your mouth. You are a living, breathing part of this frozen world. You think about the night shift workers who have to stand up all night. You think about the guards on the walls of big forts, or the sailors on the decks of ships. They don't have a buffalo robe. They don't have a green balsam bed. They have to walk and watch while the wind bites at them. You feel a little bit sorry for them, but you also feel proud to be part of the same group. You are all watching over the world while it sleeps. You are the guardians of the dark hours. The fire is now burning with a steady, orange flame. It is not too big, and it is not too small. It is just right. You feel the heavy weight of the buffalo robe pressing you down. Your toes are toasty warm in their little fur pocket. Your back is supported by the springy pine branches. Everything is perfect. You have done your duty as the watchman. You have fed the fire and checked the camp. Now you can let yourself drift away again. The hard part is over. You let your eyes close. The orange glow of the fire stays behind your eyelids for a moment, then it fades into a soft, dark purple. You feel a deep sense of peace. You are the watchman, and your fire is burning bright. You have survived the coldest part of the night, and the morning is a little bit closer than it was before. You sink deep into your green nest, listening to the soft crackle of the wood. You are safe. You are warm. The watch continues, but for now, you can sleep. You lie in the heart of your shelter, and the night shift feels like it has slowed down to a crawl. The world is at its quietest, but even in the stillness, something wonderful is happening. You can feel a steady, invisible wave of heat pressing against your face. It is not the direct heat from the flames, which can sometimes be too sharp or flickery. This is a deep, solid warmth. It is coming from your reflector wall. Those heavy logs you stacked so carefully have been drinking in the fire's heat for hours. Now, like a sponge filled with water, they are giving that heat back to you. This is the magic of the Reflector Fire at its best. A historical fact about these walls is that mountain men would sometimes build them out of stone if they were staying in one place for a long time. They knew that stone holds heat even longer than wood. But for a man on the move, a log wall is a masterpiece of clever thinking. The logs don't just stop the wind, they act like a giant radiator, similar to the ones people have in big houses in London. The heat hits the wall, fills the wood, and then bounces straight into your lean-to. Because your roof is slanted, that heat gets trapped. It circles around you, warming your back, your sides, and your face all at once. Your microhistory detail for this section is the hearthstone glow. You look at the flat stones you placed under the fire. They have turned a dusty, pale grey colour from the extreme heat. If you were to pour a little water on them, it would hiss and turn to steam instantly. These stones are helping the reflector wall. They are heating the ground beneath you, making sure no cold can creep up through the balsam branches. You are surrounded by thermal mass, a fancy term for things that hold on to heat. The logs, the stones, and even the thick cedar tree behind you are all working together to keep the deadly snows at bay. Ha ha. Moment of silence. You reach a hand out of the road for just a second to feel the air. Near the fire, the air is thick and warm. You move your hand toward the edge of the shelter, and you can feel the exact line where the warmth ends and the mountain winter begins. It is like an invisible wall of glass. Outside that line, the air would freeze your skin in minutes. Inside, you are as comfortable as a king. You pull your hand back in, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. You have built a machine made of wood and fire that changed the weather just for you. You watch the way the light hits the reflector wall. The split logs have a beautiful golden color now. The grain of the wood stands out, showing all the lines and circles of the tree's life. It looks like a piece of fine furniture in a grand hallway. You think about how simple materials, just logs and dirt, can be so powerful. You don't need a big furnace or a coal stove. You just need to understand how heat moves. You feel a sense of pride in your night shift skills. You have mastered the physics of the forest. The fire is very calm now. There is no more snapping or popping because the wood is perfectly dry. It just hums with a low, steady sound. You look at the all-night logs you added earlier. They are glowing from the inside out, like giant rubies. Every now and then, a small flake of white ash falls away, revealing the bright orange heart of the wood. It is a very peaceful thing to watch. It makes your brain feel quiet and your heart feel steady. You are the watchman, and your engine is running perfectly. You think about the night shift in a big city. There, the heat comes from coal being shoveled into big boilers. It is a noisy, dirty job. Here, the heat is clean and quiet. It smells like the earth and the sky. You prefer this 1,000 times over. You like being the one in charge of your own warmth. You like knowing exactly which log is providing the heat you feel on your cheeks. It makes you feel connected to the world in a way that city people might never understand. You notice that the frost on the very edge of your roof has melted and is now dripping slowly. Drip, drip, drip. Each drop hits the snow outside with a tiny tink sound. It is a sign of how well your reflector is working. You have created a small island of summer in the middle of a frozen ocean. You feel like a captain on a ship, safe in your cabin while the storm rages outside. The wind is still hushing through the trees, but it sounds far away, like a memory. You let your head sink back into your moss pillow. The warmth is making you feel very drowsy. It is a heavy, delicious kind of sleepiness. You know the fire will last for hours more. The reflector wall will keep pushing that heat toward you while you dream. You have done the hard work, and now you are getting the reward. You are the watchman, and your watch is a warm one. You feel a deep sense of peace, knowing that you are safe in the arms of the mountains. You close your eyes and let the radiant heat wash over you. It feels like a soft, invisible blanket. You are the master of the night shift, and your camp is a triumph. The snow can fall and the wind can blow, but you are tucked away in your golden bubble. You are warm. You are safe. The watch continues in the glow of the logs. You lie in the deep quiet of the mountain night, and your mind begins to drift back over the long trail you walked today. This is the part of the night shift where the body is still but the memory is active. You remember the way the sun looked when it first hit the snow, this morning a bright, blinding white that made you squint your eyes. You remember the long climb up the rocky ridge, where every step felt like pulling your boots out of heavy mud. You remember the sound of the frozen creek where the water moved secretly under a thick roof of blue ice. It was a hard day, but as you lie here in your warm buffalo robe, those miles feel like a grand adventure. A historical fact about the mountain man's life is that they could cover 20 or 30 miles in a single day, even in the deep snow. They didn't have trails or signs to follow. They had to read the land like a book. You remember looking at the way the trees leaned to find the direction of the wind. You remember following the tracks of an elk, knowing that the big animal would find the easiest way through the deep drifts. This trail sense is something you have earned with years of hard work. It is not something you can learn from a book. You have to live it. You have to feel the bite of the wind and the weight of the pack to truly understand the mountains. Your micro-history detail for the trail is the trapper's gait. This is a special way of walking that saves your energy. Instead of taking big, bouncy steps like a city person, you keep your knees slightly bent and your feet close to the ground. You slide your feet forward rather than lifting them high. This keeps your balance steady on the slippery ice and stops your muscles from getting tired too fast. You can still feel the rhythm of that walk in your legs now. It is a slow, steady trudge that can take a man across a whole continent if he has enough time and enough salt pork. Moment of silence. You look at your boots sitting on the warm hearthstone. They look tired too. The leather is scuffed from the rocks and stained by the snow. They are the same boots that carried you across the high pass today. You feel a strange kind of thankfulness for them. They are more than just shoes. They are your partners on the trail. You think about the places those boots have been across wide rivers, over dusty plains, and now into the heart of the deadly snows. Every scratch on the leather is a memory of a mile finished and a challenge met. You think about the silence of the high trail. There were hours today when you didn't hear a single thing except your own breathing and the crunch of the snow. That silence can be scary to some people, but to you it is a comfort. It means you are alone with your thoughts. You have time to think about your life and the world. You are not distracted by the noise of other people's problems. Out here, the only problems are the cold and the hunger, and you know how to solve those. You feel a sense of freedom that is worth more than all the gold in the world. The fire gives a soft, sleepy crack. It brings you back to the present moment. You are no longer on the trail. You are in your night shift home. But the trail is what brought you here. Every step you took was a choice to be here, in this quiet valley, under this big cedar tree. You don't regret a single mile. The mountains are hard, but they are honest. They don't promise you anything except a chance to test yourself. You have passed the test today, and now you are enjoying the prize of a warm bed and a quiet mind. You notice that your muscles are starting to feel a bit stiff. This is the trail ache that comes when the body finally stops moving. You shift your weight on the balsam branches, feeling the springy needles adjust to your shape. You stretch your toes inside your socks, feeling the warmth of the fire reach all the way down to your feet. It is a good kind of ache. It is the feeling of a body that has done a good day's work. It makes the rest feel even better. You are like a clock that has been wound up tight and is now slowly ticking down. You think about the night shift workers who stay in one place, like a baker or a printer. Their work is the same every night, but your work changes with every mile of the trail. Every night you have to find a new spot, build a new house, and make a new fire. It keeps your mind sharp and your hands busy. You like the variety of the mountain life. You never know what is around the next bend of the river. Today it was a snowy valley. Tomorrow it might be a hidden canyon or a frozen lake. The trail is a story that is always being written. You look at the orange glow on the walls of your lean-to. It looks so solid and permanent, even though you only built it a few hours ago. In the morning, you will leave it behind. The snow will eventually fall and cover it up, and the forest will take back the wood. But for tonight, it is the most important place in the world. It is the end of the trail for today. You feel a sense of peace, knowing that you have reached your goal. You have made it through the day, and you are winning the battle against the night. Your eyes are closing now. The memories of the trail are turning into the beginnings of dreams. You see the white peaks and the blue shadows in your mind, but they are soft and gentle now. You are no longer walking. You are flying over the snow. You are the watchman, and your journey for today is over. You have followed the path, and it has led you to this warm, safe nest. You let out a long sigh and sink deep into the buffalo fur. The trail is finished, and the rest is well earned. You lie deep in your furs, and for a moment you hear a new sound. It is a long, low whistle that seems to come from the very top of the mountain. Then the trees above you begin to sway. The wind has found your valley. You can hear it rushing through the high branches of the big cedar tree. It sounds like a great river of air flowing over your head. But as you lie there, you notice something wonderful. You do not feel the wind. Not even a tiny puff of cold air touches your face. You have built your lean-tos so well that the breeze simply slides over the slanted roof and continues on its way into the dark woods. You have outsmarted the mountain wind. A historical fact about the night shift is that wind is often more dangerous than the cold itself. In the 1830s, men knew that still cold was something you could live with, but moving cold, the wind could steal the heat from a man's body in minutes. This is why you were so careful to check the direction of the wind before you even touched your axe. By placing the back of your shelter against the breeze, you created a dead airspace. This is a pocket where the air stays perfectly still, even when the forest outside is dancing and groaning. You feel a sense of deep safety, like a bird tucked into a hole in a tree. Your microhistory detail for the wind is the smoke hole gap. You look up at the small space between the front of your roof and the top of the reflector wall. This gap is very important. When the wind blows over the top of your lean-to, it creates a tiny bit of suction. This suction pulls the smoke from your fire up and away from your bed. If you had closed that gap completely, the smoke would swirl around inside your shelter and make you cough. But because you left just enough room, the air stays fresh and the heat stays trapped. It is a simple trick of the night shift that makes all the difference. Moment of silence. You listen to the wind as it gets louder. It makes a whirring sound as it passes through the thick balsam needles of your roof. The needles are so dense and heavy with sap that they do not let the wind through. You can see the fire flicker just a little bit, but it does not go out. The reflector wall is acting like a shield for the flames, keeping the wind from blowing the sparks toward your bed. You feel like you are inside a fortress. The wind is the enemy trying to get in, but your walls of wood and green needles are too strong for it. You think about the deadly snows that often come with the wind. Sometimes the wind brings ground drift. This is when the wind picks up the old snow from the ground and blows it around like white sand. You can see a little bit of this white dust dancing in the firelight just outside your door. But because you built your shelter with the sides wrapping around you, the drift cannot get inside. You have made a calm spot in the middle of the storm. You feel a sense of pride in your hands. They are the hands that built the shield. You notice that the cedar tree is a good partner. Its thick trunk is solid and does not move, even when the wind pushes hard. It gives your lean-to a foundation as strong as a mountain. You feel the connection between the tree and the earth, and you feel like you are part of that connection. You are not a separate thing. You are tucked into the roots of the world. The wind can howl all it wants, but it cannot move the cedar, and it cannot move you. You are the watchman, and your post is secure. You pull the buffalo robe a little bit tighter, feeling the heavy fur hug your shoulders. The sound of the wind actually makes you feel even warmer. It is a strange thing, but knowing how cold it is out there makes the in here feel like a palace. You think about the poor animals out in the forest, the deer huddling together under a thicket, or the birds tucked into the cracks of the bark. You hope they have found their own calm spots tonight. The night shift is a time for everyone to find a way to survive. You watch the firelight jumping on the underside of your roof. The shadows move back and forth as the wind nudges the branches, but the heat remains steady. You feel a deep sense of peace. You have done your work so well that you can just lie back and listen to the world go by. You don't have to worry about the roof blowing off or the snow getting in. You have followed the rules of the woods, and the woods are rewarding you with safety. Your eyes are getting very heavy. The sound of the wind is turning into a low humming song. It is a lullaby of the high country. It tells you that the night is moving on and that you are doing fine. You are the watchman, and the wind is just a visitor passing through. You have no reason to fear it. You let your muscles relax and your mind drift. You are safe in your green room, and the mountain wind is just a sound in the distance. You let out a long breath, and the white cloud vanishes into the warm air. You are perfectly comfortable. The wind continues to rush through the trees, but you are already halfway to sleep. You are the master of the night shift, and your house is standing firm. You close your eyes, feeling the gentle reflected heat on your skin. You are warm. You are safe. The watch goes on, but you are at rest. The wind eventually grows tired and fades away, leaving the valley in a state of absolute quiet. This is the deep silence of the heavy snow. It is a silence so thick that it feels like it has a physical presence, like a heavy curtain draped over the trees and the rocks. You lie there, perfectly still, and listen. Moment of silence. You cannot hear anything. No wind, no birds, no distant wolves. The snow acts like a giant sponge, soaking up every tiny vibration in the air. This is a historical fact that mountain men often spoke of. The quiet of the great white. It is a silence that can make a man feel like the only living soul in the world. But to you, it is not a lonely silence. It is a peaceful one. It means the mountain is at rest, and for a few hours there is no struggle. Everything is pulled river, finding every gap in your clothes. Of the moon, your micro-history detail for this silence is the snowshoe hush. You think about the snowshoes leaning against the cedar tree just outside your shelter. They are made of bent ash wood and woven with strips of rawhide called babiche. When you walk on them, they make a very specific sound, a soft huff, shush as they spread your weight across the powder. But even that sound is swallowed up by the deep snow. You realize that out here, the snow is the master of all things. It changes how you move, how you build, and even how you hear. It is the white blanket that keeps the earth sleeping until the spring. You look at the fire, the logs are no longer flaming. They are just solid blocks of glowing orange light. The heat is still intense, but it is silent too. There is no more hissing or popping. The fire is breathing with you, slow and steady. You can see the heat ripples in the air between you and the reflector wall. They look like clear water moving in front of your eyes. You feel a sense of deep calm. The silence of the night is matched by the silence in your own mind. You are not worried about tomorrow's trail or yesterday's cold. You are just here in this moment of perfect quiet. You think about the night shift in the world of men. Even in the middle of the night, towns have noises: the barking of a dog, the creak of a floorboard, the sound of a distant bell. But here, the silence is total. It makes you feel like you are standing on the edge of the world. You are the watchman of the nothing. You are guarding the silence itself. It is a big responsibility, but it feels good. It makes you feel strong and capable. You are a man who can live with the quiet and not be afraid of it. The moon is beginning to sink toward the jagged peaks in the west. The shadows are moving again, stretching out across the white valley. The snow reflects the moonlight so well that the ground seems to glow from within. It is a cold blue glow that contrasts with the warm orange glow of your fire. You feel like you are caught between two worlds, the world of fire and the world of ice. But inside your buffalo robe, you are the master of both. You've used the ice to build your floor and the fire to build your warmth. You notice a small owl gliding silently across the opening of your shelter. It doesn't make a sound. Its feathers are designed to move through the air without a whisper. It is a ghost of the night hunting in the silence. You watch it disappear into the dark trees. It is a part of the night shift too. It is doing its job while the rest of the world is asleep. You feel a sense of kinship with the owl. You are both creatures of the quiet hours, moving through the cold with purpose and skill. Your eyes are very heavy now. The silence is like a heavy weight, pulling your eyelids down. You feel the warmth of the reflector fire on your cheeks and the softness of the fur against your skin. The world is so still that you can almost hear the sap freezing in the trees again. You let out a long, slow breath. The white cloud of your breath is the only thing moving in the whole shelter. You are the watchman, and the silence is your reward. You have done your work, and now the mountain is giving you the gift of perfect peace. You sink deeper into the balsam branches, feeling the springy needles support your body. The night shift is almost over, and the morning is not far away. But for now, there is only the quiet. You let yourself drift away on the sea of silence, knowing that you are safe and warm. The snow will stay quiet, the fire will stay hot, and the mountain will stay still. You close your eyes and let the silence take you into the deep, dreamless sleep of the winter. The fire is a low, pulsing glow, and the silence of the mountain is absolute. You are now in the deepest part of the night shift, that time just before the first hint of light. You are no longer fully awake, but you are not quite fully asleep. You are dreaming under the heavy fur blankets. These are not the busy, fast dreams you have in a city. These are mountain dreams. They are slow and quiet. You dream of the summer, of green grass waving in the wind, and the sound of a rushing river that isn't frozen. You dream of the smell of wild roses and the heat of the sun on your back. Even as you dream of the heat, you feel the real warmth of the fire on your face, and the two things mix together in your mind. A historical fact about the mountain man's sleep is that they often slept in a way called polyphasic sleep. This is a big word that just means they slept in several short bursts instead of one long, 8-hour stretch. You might sleep for 2 hours, wake up to check the fire, listen to the woods, and then drift back for another 2. This kept the brain sharp and the body ready. In your dreams, you are still the watchman. You are aware of the fire's crackle and the wind's sigh, even while you travel through the lands of sleep. It is a deep healing rest that cleans the tiredness out of your muscles. Your micro-history detail for this section is the dream feather. Many trappers, influenced by the Native American cultures they lived near, would tie a small bird feather to the frame of their lean-to. As you drift in and out of sleep, you see your own small feather hanging from the ridgepole. It moves just a tiny bit in the warmth rising from the fire. They believed it would catch the good dreams and let the bad ones pass through the open front of the shelter. To you, it is a simple, peaceful thing to watch. It is a tiny bit of life and movement in a world that is otherwise frozen solid. Moment of silence. You shift your weight slightly, and the buffalo robe settles around you like a heavy, warm cloud. You feel the scratchy wool of the Hudson's Bay blanket against your ankles. It is a comforting texture. You are tucked so deep into your nest that you feel like you are part of the earth itself. The balsam branches beneath you have been warmed by the ground and the fire, and they give off a scent that is like a soft green incense. This smell follows you into your dreams, making you feel like you are walking through a forest of giant friendly trees that never end. You think about the night shift workers who dream of the day. You are one of them. In your sleep, you see the golden light of the sun hitting the high glaciers. You see the eagles circling in the blue sky. You feel the strength of the mountains in your bones. These dreams are a gift. They remind you why you chose this hard, lonely life. It is for the beauty and the freedom. You are the master of your own time and your own soul. No one tells you when to wake or when to sleep. You follow the rhythm of the stars and the fire. You notice that the orange light behind your eyelids is getting a little bit dimmer. The fire is slowly turning into a bed of solid red coals. This is the most stable heat of the night. It is like a glowing coal bed in a forge. It doesn't need to flame to be hot. You feel that heat reaching into your chest, making your breathing slow and steady, in and out, in and out. You are perfectly in sync with the mountain. You are not a stranger here. You are a son of the wilderness, resting in your mother's lap. The buffalo fur is so thick that you don't even feel the cold air on your shoulders. You have created a world that is only 6 feet long and 4 feet wide, and inside that world, everything is perfect. You feel a sense of total contentment. There is nowhere else you need to be. There is nothing else you need to do. You have built your house, fed your fire, and now you are letting the night take care of the rest. You are the watchman, and your dreams are your reward for a job well done. Your mind drifts back to the summer rendezvous. You see the bright tents and hear the laughter of your friends. You taste the fresh meat and the sweet berries. But even in your dream, you know that you prefer the quiet of the winter. There is an honesty in the snow that you don't find in the crowds. You like the challenge of the night shift. You like knowing that you can survive the deadly snows with nothing but your axe, your wits, and your buffalo robe. It makes you feel proud and strong. You sink deeper into the quiet. The dreams become softer, like the falling snow. You see the white flakes drifting down through the dark trees, covering the world in a silent silver blanket. You feel the peace of the frozen valley. You are the watchman, and the night is your friend. You let go of the last bits of wakefulness and sink into the deep, dark well of sleep. You are safe. You are warm. The mountain is standing guard, and the fire is holding the line. You open your eyes just a tiny bit. The world inside your lean-to is still dark, but something has changed. The air feels different. It is no longer the deep, heavy black of midnight. When you look out past the edge of your reflector fire, you see that the sky is no longer purple. It has turned a very soft, pale grey. This is the first light. It is the moment when the stars begin to fade away, one by one, like candles being blown out. You lie very still, watching the transformation. The jagged peaks of the mountains, which looked like black shadows all night, are now starting to show their true shapes against the sky. They look like giant teeth made of cold blue steel. A historical fact about the night shift is that the coldest moment of the whole night is often right now, just as the sun is starting to wake up. This is because the earth has been losing its heat to the sky for 10 hours. The mountain men call this the grey death hour, because if your fire went out now, the cold could take hold of you very quickly, but you are safe. You reach out a hand, your skin looks pale in the new light, and you feel the warmth still coming from the coals. Your reflector wall is still doing its job, catching the last of the heat and pushing it toward your bed. You have made it through the hardest part. Your microhistory detail for the dawn is the frost beard. You reach up and touch your chin. During the night, your breath has frozen on your facial hair, creating a thick, white crust of ice. It feels heavy and stiff, like a mask made of tiny diamonds. You don't try to pull it off, as that would hurt. You know that once you sit up and move closer to the fire, the heat will melt it away in a few seconds. This frostbeard is a badge of honor. It shows that you have stayed out in the open, breathing the mountain air, while the rest of the world was tucked away in houses. Moment of silence. You listen to the forest waking up. It is a very slow process. You hear the first cheep of a small bird hidden deep in the cedar branches above you. Then, you hear the distant thud of a heavy piece of snow falling from a cliff. The silence of the night is being replaced by the soft sounds of the day. You feel a sense of accomplishment. You are the watchman, and you have delivered the camp safely into the morning. The deadly snows did not win. You are still warm, your gear is dry, and your heart is beating strong. You watch the color of the sky change. The grey is turning into a very light, dusty pink. It looks like the inside of a seashell. This pink light hits the very tops of the highest mountains, making them glow like they are on fire. This is called alpenglow. It is one of the most beautiful things a human can see. For a few minutes, the frozen rocks look soft and warm. As if they were made of silk, you feel a deep sense of peace. This is the reward for the long, cold hours of the night shift. You get to see the world being born again. You think about the night shift workers in the towns. They are probably putting out their lamps now. They are heading home to their beds while the rest of the world starts their day. You are doing the opposite. Doing the opposite. Your work day is about to begin. You will have to pack up your buffalo robe, put out your fire, and step back onto the snowy trail. But you don't feel tired. The rest you got in your green nest was deep and good. You feel like a new man, ready for whatever the mountains have to throw at you today. You look at the fire one last time. It is mostly a pile of white ash now, but you can see the red eyes of the coals peeking through. You move your feet a little, feeling the warmth of the Hudson's Bay blanket. You are in no rush to leave this cozy spot. You want to enjoy the last few minutes of the quiet. You watch the pink in the sky turn to a bright, clear orange. The sun is still hidden behind the ridges, but its light is everywhere. The snow in the valley is turning from blue to a brilliant, sparkling white. It looks like the ground is covered in a billion tiny mirrors. You feel a sense of connection to all the trappers who came before you. They sat in shelters just like this one, watching the same pink light on the same peaks. You are part of a long chain of survival. You have used the old ways, the wood, the stone, the fur, and the fire to keep the spark of life going. You are the watchman, and your shift is almost over. You have guarded the silence, and now the light has come to take over the watch. You take a deep breath. The air is still very cold, but it smells different now. It doesn't smell like the deep frozen night anymore. It smells like the morning. It smells like hope. You feel a surge of energy in your muscles. You are ready to stand up, stretch your limbs, and see what the new day brings. You have conquered the night shift, and the mountains are welcoming you to the day. You are a mountain man, and you have survived another winter night in the high country. You let your eyes wander over your little home, the green balsam needles, the brown cedar bark, the grey reflector logs. They have been your world for the last 12 hours. They have kept you safe. You feel a sense of thanks to the forest. You reach out and pat the thick trunk of the cedar tree. "Thank you, old friend," you whisper. Your voice sounds strange and gravelly after the long silence. You are ready to start the day. The watch is nearly ended and the sun is on its way. The sun is finally touching the high peaks and the valley is filled with a bright gold light. You sit up slowly, letting the buffalo robe slide off your shoulders. The air is still very cold, but the sight of the sun makes you feel warm inside. You reach for your boots, which are dry and warm from the hearthstones. You pull them on and tie the leather laces tight. You stand up and stretch your arms high above your head. Your muscles are a little stiff, but they feel strong. You look at your lean-to, the green home that kept you safe through the deadly snows. It looks small and humble in the daylight, but you know it was as good as any castle. You are the watchman, and your job for this night is finished. You take a small piece of pemmican from your bag for breakfast. It is hard and cold, but it gives you the energy you need to start the trail. You begin the night shift closing tasks. You take your snowshoes and shake off the frost. You roll up your Hudson's Bay blanket and your heavy buffalo robe, tying them back onto your pack with the leather straps. You move with a steady rhythm. You don't want to leave anything behind. You check the ground to make sure you haven't dropped your awl or your flint and steel. Everything is in its place. You are a professional, and you leave a clean camp. Your micro-history detail for the morning is the dousing of the coals. Even though you are in a frozen wilderness, you never leave a fire burning. You take a handful of snow and sprinkle it over the red embers. It makes a loud hiss and a cloud of white steam rises up. You do this until the stones are cold and the orange glow is gone. This is a historical fact. Mountain men had a deep respect for the forest. They knew that even in winter, a stray spark could cause trouble if the wind picked up. You make sure the fire is truly dead before you shoulder your pack and pick up your rifle. Moment of silence. You take one last look at the cedar tree and the reflector wall. They look like old friends who are staying behind while you go on a journey. You feel a sense of peace and strength. You have survived the night using only your hands and the gifts of the forest. You have turned the cold into warmth and the dark into light. You step out of the shelter and into the deep, powdery snow. The world is wide and white, and the trail is waiting for you. You are the watchman, and you have done your duty well. You walk away from the camp, leaving nothing but a few tracks in the snow. The air is very quiet now, but it is a different kind of quiet than the night. It is the quiet of a new beginning. You feel the weight of your pack on your shoulders, but it feels good. It is the weight of your life and your freedom. You look up at the bright blue sky and the golden sun. You feel like you could walk forever. You are a mountain man, a free trapper, and the world is yours to explore. The night shift is over, and the day is yours to command. You take a deep breath of the fresh morning air and start your first step toward the high pass. The long hours of the watch are behind you now. You can feel the safety of the morning light wrapping around you like a soft cloak. The hard work of building and the cold of the midnight wind are just memories now. You have done everything needed to stay safe, and the mountain has let you through to the other side. You can let go of the worry and the focus now. Your breathing can be slow and easy. Your mind can be as still as the snow in the valley. The world is awake, and you have finished your shift with honor and skill. You are safe. You are warm. The fire of the night has done its work, and the sun is here to take its place. You can rest your mind now, knowing that you have mastered the winter. The shadows are gone, and the path ahead is clear and bright. You have been a good guardian of the past, and now you can be a part of the present. The cold cannot touch you anymore. You are home in the mountains, and everything is exactly as it should be. The sun is rising, the gates are opening, the watch is ended.